Good morning and welcome to our 90th weekly webcast. If this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. And so the way the call works is this is an AMA, meaning you can ask me anything. You can ask me business questions, career questions, personal questions, etc. And this call is 3 hours long. And so we will end just after 11 a.m. San Francisco time today. If I don't answer the question properly or if I miss it, please just ask it again because I answer the questions in the order in which I receive them. So without further ado, let's begin and thank you. All right, our first question is from Joao. Hey, Joao. Joao is saying, hey, Chris, wish you and your family well. Likewise, as a product manager, I'm looking to grow my leadership business and finance acumen. How can your MBA program help me on that? And what can I start doing now? Yeah. So I basically teach you in my MBA degree program everything about finance and accounting from scratch, assuming you have absolutely no background in finance and accounting. Now, I teach it in a much more visual and engaging way. I have lots of props. It's a lot of fun so that you'll actually be learning by accident as I try to humbly edutain, meaning educate and edutate and entertain if I can. Senior moment there. Wow. Now, what I also do is I teach you leadership skills through how to manage people, how to motivate people, how to delegate appropriately. And I provide you with hundreds of templates I've created for you for finance, accounting, marketing, leadership, every type of template you can think of in business that you might possibly need so that you can work smarter and not harder. Now, what I recommend doing is going to my website here. It's Haroun Education. Let me just get all set up here. And thank you. By the way, I'm sorry for the late start today. I had to restart my computer. First time we were late ever. A couple minutes, I think. Yeah. All right. So I'll just use this browser here. So if you go to my website, harouneducation.com, what you can do is you can actually click here to learn more about the program. Now, before I go there, I added something new here. So I actually added the pricing and easier to understand terms. Okay, and let me just get myself off this screen so you can see that properly. Thank you. Oops. All right, good. Yeah. So here's the pricing. So it's $499. It's a one-time fee if you want to start right now, and you can start right now. And this is over 300 hours of lessons, and you can take it on a mobile, a desktop, tablet, etc. 30-day, 100% money-back guarantee. You don't get that with any other MBA degree programs, and you can start right away. Now, the gold version is exactly the same as this, except you get to join me for more than 200 hours of live Q&A after each class, and during each class after each topic, actually. And so this program here starts December 14th and lasts 1 year. This program you can do in about 6 months if you wanted to, or much longer. And you can take as long as you want to do any of these programs here. Next up is the platinum version, which is $14.99. And it's everything you get in the gold version. Plus you get several hours of one-on-one meetings with me or Zoom calls, whatever works best for you. And as always, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. No questions asked with all these programs. So if you want to, you can actually enroll in this one and start today and then submit your application to get accepted to these ones. And for all the important dates, just click here. And there's a lot of FAQs here and student testimonials, etc. And feel free to reach out to any of my students. Here are all their LinkedIn addresses as well if you just click here from all over the world that are currently taking it. And if you have additional questions that aren't answered in the FAQ, please let me know. And we'd love to have you join us. Thank you. Pratik is asking, in the last webcast, you were talking about Indian dosa. Oh, I love it. And for those of you not familiar with dosa, it's the best food ever made. And when I was teaching in India, I taught in Delhi and Mumbai. And I'm embarrassed to say this, but my favorite food is airport food. But I'm not embarrassed to say that it's from Punjabi Grill, which is the best. Oh my God, it's amazing. And they make a dosa that will just make your mouth melt. It's kind of like when you first eat a Krispy Kreme donut right out of the oven. And so a lot of times when I go to Indian restaurants here in North America, I don't even see dosa on the menu. But everybody have to try it. You haven't lived until you tried dosa. And then you wrote here, if I make and sell dosas in the United States, will it be a good business? Or could it be like I would start an Indian restaurant here? Okay, and I'm assuming you're saying here, meaning in India. I think there's a market for it. And one of my neighbors actually here in the town of Hillsborough, where I live, he started a nice guy. He started a company called Curry Up Now, and it's food truck delivery, kind of like that movie Chef. Except it's Indian food. And he's really passionate about it. He's done a great job. Now, he's done exceptionally well because he has extraordinarily good customer service. And I humbly believe that a company is only as good as its customer service. Take care of the customers, and the profits and everything else will work out in the long run. So yes, I do think there's a market for it. Am I an expert in that area? Absolutely not. How can you get more intel on this? Well, what you can do if you want to, and this is what I do for data analysis, is you can go to this great website called SurveyMonkey. And by the way, I don't get compensated for mentioning any website or anything ever. So SurveyMonkey. And what you can do is you can actually set up a custom survey. And you can select which audience you want in which region. So let's say that you wanted to start a restaurant, Indian restaurant company focusing on dosa and other great Indian food in the San Francisco Bay Area. Then what you can do is you can create a survey here and decide to only use a certain demographic, meaning people that live in a certain zip code, etc. And you can ask them basic questions in that survey about what are your thoughts on Indian food. I'm sure everyone will say they love it. And have you heard of dosa, etc. Yeah, so I would start off with that. Now, for those of you watching that work at big companies and you want to get feedback on what your employees think of you, you can use SurveyMonkey, or you can use another service, which I was looking at recently, called Suggestion Ox. That's like suggestion box without the B. Suggestion Ox. Here it is. I had it open recently. Yeah. And here you can actually get a free version and a premium version as well to find out 100% anonymous what your employees and customers and the marketplace thinks of you, your brand, etc. So hopefully that's helpful. And as always, if you have additional questions, please let me know, and thank you. All right, next one is Kanal. Kanal is saying, hi, Chris. Hope you and your family are doing well. Same thing with you. Thank you. And then Saloni wrote, I agree, Chris. I hope everything is well as well. Thank you. And thank you for that comment there. God bless you. The question from Kanal is, what new activities have you included in your daily routine in this lockdown? Any new things that you and your family do together? Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of stuff together. So we started playing Monopoly again. And when we play Monopoly, nobody can have their cell phones on or near them. It's kind of like whenever I go to dinner with my family, or we have dinner as a family here, what we do is everybody has to pile up their iPhones on the table, myself included, and nobody can touch it. Nobody can touch it. So we tend to bond a lot more using board games at home here, which is a lot of fun. Aside from that, I write down my daily routine, and I'll show it to you. So I've got two versions of this daily routine schedule. One of them you might have seen before because I've talked about it here on the weekly webcast. It's this one here. You can go to schedule, or you go to harounventures.com/schedule to access that. And here's what it looks like. And I schedule every single day, okay, weekdays at least. And here you can schedule everything you do throughout the day, including gym time, family time, etc. And then you score yourself at the end of the day. You can download this from harouneducation.com/all lowercase schedule. Now, this is the premium version of that same product that I use with my MBA degree students right here. And what might make more sense is if I were to actually use this angle here. Yeah. Whoops. Okay. Great. So what I do is I schedule everything one day in advance for weekdays. And this is the premium version of it, which I give my MBA degree students in OneNote format, PDF, Word, Google Docs, PowerPoint, tons of formats, even LibreOffice, the open source version. And so what I do is I schedule everything for weekdays. And I do it at night at 9 p.m. Then the next night, before I make tomorrow or the next day's schedule, I score myself. And so I'll take off 10% for everything I violated, meaning didn't exercise, didn't get 20,000 steps, which really means 10,000 steps. And then what I'll do is I'll give myself a score in the bottom. It's very subjective, obviously, but I also schedule in time for family, exercise, nutrition, at least 7 hours of sleep, and me time as well. Me time as well. Yeah, and I write down my goals because if you write down your goals daily, I guarantee you the probability of them coming true increases materially. But what you have to do is you have to actually set a deadline date for all your goals as well. Kind of like this is a daily deadline date goal planner for me. So this helps out a lot. And I found that I've actually been able to bond a lot better with my kids. And so I've got 3 boys. Go back to this camera and show you guys. I love these guys. They're like sons to me. I got 3 boys. And this guy here, Andrew, this is an older picture, but he just turned 16. And there's a statistic which is by the time your kids are 12 years old, you've already spent 90% of the time you've ever spent with them. Now, it's terrible what's happening in the world. It's absolutely awful, and I pray every night that we find a solution for this quickly. However, the silver lining is I get to spend more time with my family. I do. And the reality is that we can all work from home in the long run. Almost everything we can do from home. But I spend a lot more time now with Andrew. So he's 16. We have a gym in the garage, which I ordered on Amazon. And we work out together. We bond together. It's great. It's a great way to bond. And other ways to bond with your kids, obviously, is to go for a walk. We do that a lot, actually. And sometimes I say, come on, everyone's go for a walk. And everyone's like, no, I want to play Fortnite or whatever. And I kind of force them. It's forced family fun. And we all feel much better by the time the walk is done. We're still practicing social distancing, of course. We're not wearing masks when we go on a walk because we're not close to anybody. But we bond that way. Aside from that, my daily routine, I've been working a lot harder because what we did actually is we gave away. I feel that with this whole COVID situation that if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And for a lot of people, part of the solution means staying home and practicing social distancing. For me, I actually felt guilty because my business picked up a bunch. And so what I did was in the month of March, I gave away 1 million courses for free all over the world. And I thought that if I gave it away, more people would stay home, particularly in areas like Egypt, which is where my dad's from, where I'm really worried because there's, 100 million people and everybody lives really close to each other on the Nile, as opposed to the desert, obviously, unless you're in the north in Alexandria. And so I thought if I give away my courses for free, it will have people more engaged to stay home and whatnot. And it's the right thing to do. We're all in this together. Now, because I did that, I actually had to hire a couple more people to help out with the Q&A. All the questions. It's hard, man. We try to get back to every question from every student on every platform, especially Udemy, within 1 to 2 days. It's tough. It's tough. And your ratings go down, too, when you give away a lot of free courses. Not happened to me, but I don't care. I just want to help. I want to help. So that's kind of what my life has been like in a nutshell for the past couple of months. I've been working very hard, obviously, on this MBA degree program, which is available now. You can go to HarounEducation.com to learn more. Thank you. Holy, I feel like this is an infomercial. All right, let me just clean up my desk. When I used to work at Goldman, they used to say a clean desk is a happy desk. All right, my desk is now happy. Move this over here. Oh, I had this little prop. I found this the other day, and this is crazy, okay? But a lot of you probably recognize what this is fun. It's pretty funny. But I went with a family member to the hospital a couple years ago, and this family member was younger. And he's fine now, thank God. But I had this ID, okay? And whenever I show this ID, and I showed it at a hospital years ago, I'm not gonna say which one, but whenever I show this ID just for fun, people have one of 2 reactions. They laugh hysterically, or they look at it and they say, okay, that's good. It's crazy, it's crazy. Hi, man-child, I'm 7.5 actually. This is from the movie Superbad, of course. And I bought this off of eBay just for a joke. Don't ever use this at the airport. Of course, I never will, but I've used it in cities all over the world where just to break the ice, where I have to show my ID at the front desk. And most of the time people laugh. And actually here in the town of Hillsborough, there was a police officer a year and a half ago when I started my daily vlogs. And I was vlogging and I was walking around and he said, sir, we've had complaints from people that you're walking around with a camera. What are you doing? And so I told him what I was doing. He was cool with it. And we bonded And I actually said, can I show you my fake ID? And he looked at me like this, kind of smiling a bit too, right? I bought him with him. I knew it'd be cool. And I showed him this, and he was dying laughing. This is fun. Anyway, if you haven't seen the movie Superbad, turn off this webcast immediately and watch it. It's dope, or groovy, as the kids say these days. They don't say that, do they? Yeah. Anyway, it's funny. I hope you enjoy that movie. It's great. All right. Next up is Pratik is asking, should I use Google Meet or Zoom meetings? Some of my friends were saying that Google Meet is easier to use if you teach online. Yeah, and I actually saw a message from Google yesterday that the product is free now. So and hopefully it'll be free forever. It might not be. It might just be free until people go back to work one day. But if you don't have a budget and you want to have a large number of people on a call, and you don't want there to be a time limit, then I humbly recommend that you check out Google Meet first. Now, Zoom, I think, is better just because more people know how to use it. It's not as easy as you think. Like sharing and I do it every couple of days with my students, actually, my MBA degree program. It's not as intuitive as you think, because what happens is if you want to share your screen, it's hard, man. It's tough. It's really, really tricky. And up here, I actually have a timer. You're probably wondering what it was, but this timer actually is for my MBA degree students, because I give them, on Thursdays, we do a bunch of 20-minute one-on-ones, and they can all go multiple times, but I make it 20 minutes. That's our timer. But what we do use is we use Zoom for this, and it works out exceptionally well, except when you're sharing screens. And because I subscribe to it, I'm a corporate subscriber with my business. It's what I do. We've had 12 people on at the same time. You can kind of do Brady Bunch style, 3x3 for 9. If I'm probably dating myself. I don't know if anybody gets that. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, cool. And I tried something different today as well. I'm always trying to push the goalpost out. So down here, I've got pedals, as many of you know. So and it's just treated like it's a keyboard. So I'll click them now. Just look, no hands. So I do it in order. So that's the first one I see. This one next, and then we've got the one on a slider here, and then over here we've got the close-up, my oldest camera, which works out best, and the last one here is just picture-in-picture. Now, what I also did this week, which is different, and you probably noticed that it's looking a little bit different in here. I'm actually changing things because I want to show my students in my MBA degree program how to set up an amazing video conferencing setup at home using what you have, not buying new stuff. And it's not based on the price of the equipment, it's how well you know how to use it, which is why my oldest and cheapest camera is still my best one here for me. But what I also did was I actually bought DJ lights. And I was thinking to return them, but I think I might keep it. And so they're actually down here, and you can operate it with your foot. And so I have it set up here. I don't want to push, there's two pedals. I don't want to push the other button because it'll start a rave in here. And I might just have to drop some E. No, I'm totally kidding. Problem with these live webcasts, dude, is I'm one dumb comment away from destroying my life. No. But the lights will flash on different colors, and it'll give me, and more importantly, you, my customer, a headache. So anyway, I'm trying to push the goalpost out and do something different. I also added these strips here, these yellow strips on the floor. And these are what you use in garages if you have cables underneath. And I did that because my kids come in here a lot, and I'm worried about a fire. And the most important thing I can tell you guys today, actually, is this. If you have kids, and this has saved my house from burning down a couple times. So if you have kids and you have one of these things, an extinguisher. The problem with these things is that they're heavy, so my youngest child might have problems lifting it. And also, they don't know what to do sometimes because they grew up playing Fortnite. So they're like, I don't get it. Like, it's not that intuitive. That's a new thing for them, especially if they're freaking out there's a fire. So what I did was I bought these. Again, I'm not affiliated with any brand. I just want to humbly help if I can and make a fool of myself at the same time. Laugh at me, not with me. This is called Fire Gone, Stop Fires Fast. And I highly recommend getting it and putting it in all of your kids' rooms. They're not that expensive. You can buy them in bulk over Amazon or online and on other places as well. And it's like a gun. And my kids, they play Fortnite. They're not allowed to when I'm doing live webcasts, though. So they're not a really big fan of me doing this job. But with Fortnite, like they know that's how to shoot. So these things are more intuitive for kids to use. It's called Fire Gone, Stop Fires Fast. Put them in your kids' rooms, please. And what I do is every now and then I'll have a fire drill, not like one of those crazy ones at school or work, whatever. But I'll just walk into the room and I'll just gently say, there's a fire right there. What do you do? And immediately they know, well, Dad, the extinguisher's over there, this thing. So they're visible. Now, we've started a couple of fires. One was just outside the house with the barbecue. This saved us because it's close to the house. The flames could have gotten to the house. And we also, twice in the kitchen, this worked out. And here as well, actually. I'm such an idiot. When I try to build this place out, I actually used a saw and power tools and I cut down the wall. Not a great job, as you can see, but I started a little fire. And if anybody's going to be making computers for cryptocurrency purposes, et cetera, or doing this stuff like I'm doing at home, you got to have one of those things handy. Oh boy, I talk a lot. Okay. What's the next question here? All right. And there's a follow-up question about teaching online live. And should you use Zoom or should you use Google? What's it called? Google Meet, I think. Yeah. So I would say neither. I mean, if you want to do a live webcast like this, what I would do is use YouTube Live. It's really, really easy to do, and take questions the way I'm taking questions now. However, if you want to have people on the call at the same time with you, then and in person and actually presenting, then obviously Zoom is a lot better. And if you get a chance, I want you to search online for Saturday Night Live and Zoom. It was the funniest skit I've ever seen. It was about this Baptist priest who was conducting mass, and everybody was talking, and their mics weren't muted, and it was a pain in the neck, but it was funny. Check it out if you can. Yeah. Bottom line is I like YouTube Live, but when it comes to my students presenting, then I switch over to Zoom within my MBA degree program. Yeah. Okay. Next up is John. Hey, John, how are you? And John, thank you very much for your email the other day. I appreciate it. And we are considering it very, very closely. And this is just going to be an inside joke between John and I. If we end up working together, this is for you, John. John is from Rochester. John, you're not, if we work together, and I'd love to, and I'll get back to you soon. You're from New York, and I know you're a Yankees fan, okay? And Don Mattingly was dope, okay? He was my favorite. But you have to become a Blue Jays fan, okay, as part of the application process. You cannot be a Yankees fan, okay? Blue Jays first, Yankees a distant second, okay? Just kidding. So John's been on this call for, I think, probably 50 or 60 weeks now. He's been great. But John, I'll get back to you soon on that. And thank you. I thought your email was fantastic. Yeah. Thanks. All right. And then John is saying, hey, Chris, I want to start writing more. Should I start a blog of some sort? How should I get my name out there? Yeah. So I think that you should start writing articles initially on LinkedIn. And the market's always right. You'll find out which articles of yours people like just by the number of likes you get in the comments, etc. And before I gave my TEDx talk, what I did was I actually wrote the script for the TEDx and I put it on LinkedIn. And I was just testing to see if people liked it. I didn't say it was a TEDx talk, but I got a lot of likes, and that's why I used it for my TEDx. But I think you got to write and write often. And I would do it weekly. And if you do it weekly, just be consistent. Do it on the same day at the same time. So, for example, for me, this is week number 90, which is crazy but fun, for this weekly webcast, which starts every Wednesday or every Thursday. Getting old now. Every Thursday at 8 a.m. So just be consistent. And one thing I want you to look into as well, if you do this, is the whole repurposing of content strategy, which Gary Vaynerchuk talks about. And for those of you not familiar with Gary V, he's this dude from the East Coast in the U.S., a bit abrasive, but you grow to love him because he's very transparent. It's true. But what I want you to do is go to Gary V's website. He is the expert on this, not me. And my dad taught me only take advice from successful people. All right. So when you go to Gary Vee's website, I want you to scroll to the bottom and look at the icons here. And this is just something I made up. Nobody does this, but whatever order these are in are what you should think about social media wise. Okay. Like maybe focus on the first couple. LinkedIn, I still think you should do this as podcast. He got rid of Method recently, and so did I. That platform wasn't really taken off. And so he repurposes content, and I do the same. And so many of you notice that during this weekly call, when you ask questions, a couple of weeks later, it becomes a vlog. And for those of you that subscribe to my YouTube channel, you've seen the vlogs. And what we also do is we repurpose some of these videos or the questions I answer in Facebook, which I don't trust still, as well as Twitter, LinkedIn Daily, and also here on Instagram. And we actually do a weekly podcast now. It's just basically my voice doing this weekly call. So the name of the game is repurposing content. And Gary Vee has a great presentation on this I want you to watch, please. It's pretty simple. It's just 86 pages of insanity. That's what he calls it. And you can click through all 86 slides here. But he talks about the content pyramid, which I also believe in, which means you create one piece of content here and then you repurpose it across different platforms. And this is something that Nintendo has been doing forever. And Nintendo is over 100 years old. It's the oldest tech company on the planet. They weren't always a tech company. They were a trading cards company and then an arcade company. But what Nintendo's been doing since the 80s is they've been repurposing their old video games. So Mario on the 8-bit and 16-bit and 64-bit, Super Mario on 64, best game ever made. Second is GoldenEye. But they repurposed all that stuff on their more recent platforms, like the Wii, the Wii U, as well as the Switch. And so think like Nintendo and Gary Vaynerchuk when it comes to creating content and then repurposing it. Last thing I want to say is you might not have time to repurpose it at certain times of the day. So what you can do is you can use a great Canadian company called Hootsuite, yeah. And what you can do is you can actually schedule your daily posts here, and you can get up to 30 schedules per month for free, and then you pay. And so you can automatically have all of your stuff across different social media platforms automatically scheduled in the future using this. And that will save you time. The only caveat I have about using Hootsuite is that if it's a video, what I want you to do is don't use Hootsuite. I want you to upload the video natively to the appropriate social media channels like Twitter or LinkedIn. Because if you just provide a link to a YouTube video on LinkedIn, for example, what happens is the search engine algorithm within LinkedIn does not favor your content because LinkedIn doesn't want to lose eyeballs to their competitor YouTube. So what you have to do is upload those natively, which is what we do every day around 9 a.m. my time on LinkedIn. Great to see you here, John. And I will get in touch with you soon. Thank you. And the first question John ever asked, which was, I think like a year ago or something, I think you asked me who my favorite comedians are. And I remember that because I remember reading your name and thinking, okay, I'm going to think John Cleese. I know your name is John Cleese, but yeah. I remember that's how I remember your name. Yeah. But you're a Blue Jays fan, right? Yeah, just kidding. Okay. Next up is Kunal, who's saying, I've started to help my mom in some daily household chores. Awesome. And something you wrote, that's something I've never done before. Good for you. It's amazing. Give your mama a hug. And I found out that I have a really, really good chopping skills. Pew, pew, pew. Do you guys watch TikTok? There's a great video in TikTok. You guys should all watch TikTok. Download it immediately, please. Don't watch me anymore. Just watch TikTok. But there's a song, and there's this older lady cooking in the kitchen, and she's chopping. She goes, pew, pew, pew. Anyway, it's kind of funny. That's another thing keeping me somewhat sane, which is an oxymoron coming from me. Another thing keeping me somewhat sane is funny videos on TikTok. Okay. You wrote here that I found when I'm helping my mom in the kitchen, I have really good chopping skills. Onion is my specialty. Yeah. And then you wrote, I chop onions and I don't cry. The trick is to not get emotionally attached. Okay, I get it. I love the humor. That's dad humor. I'm with you. I love it. And, oh, dude, there's this great commercial that everybody's got to watch. And this is a business call, so what the heck? This is going to be a business comment as well. So it's called A Ticket for Mom. British Airways. And what I'll do is I'll just provide you guys with the YouTube link here. And I promise you, you will not have a dry eye. This is the most brilliant commercial ever made. The cinematography is off the charts. The sonic architecture of the music blows me away, all that good stuff. So I'll paste it there. Watch it. You'll love it. It'll make your day, I promise. And give your mom a big hug. And yes, keep helping her in the kitchen. Yeah. Yeah. And my kids rotate. Like Andrew's on dishwasher duty today, then Matthew tomorrow, and then Dylan, that sort of thing. Yeah. Because we don't have any help here, and with the lady that helps us out, she's wonderful. We won't let her come back until this is all done, obviously, and we're paying her full salary. Same thing with our gardeners, and everybody should do that if you can. Yeah. All right. And Prashant saying, hi, Chris. This is Prashant Sharma from India. How are you? I'm great, thank you, and thank you very much for your commentary and activity within my social media channels. I appreciate that. Okay, Unknown, Mr. Unknown, who also goes by the nickname Habibi. It's true, he does. And you say you're from Morocco, I think, right? So let me turn the air conditioning off. It's getting real cold here. So Mr. Unknown Habibi is saying, hi, Chris. What do you recommend for extreme introverts? How can one cope with stress and become successful in this world dominated by extroverts? That's a great question. So whatever your fear is in life, you got to run to your fear. If you're fearful of public speaking, then you have to public speak all the time. You have to do a search online go to meetup.com and do a search on Toastmasters, which are free events you can go to in every city in the world for public speaking. If you're scared of accounting, take my courses. I got a D in accounting, by the way, the first time I took it, because I was memorizing accounting. I wasn't trying to understand it. But you got to condition yourself to enjoy it. And I'll teach you how to read financial statements like a good book. When it comes to being an introvert, and I was like that for a while, actually. So I used to be a programmer, and I loved it. And I remember it was the late 80s, and I was working at Accenture, sorry, bad dad humor, no more today, I promise. But I remember when I was at Accenture, I would code for 10, 12 hours in a row, and I loved it. I felt like I was in a zone. It was great. It was like a puzzle. I loved it. And I listened to my tunes on my CD player. I'm dating myself. But I remember that I would go to parties and I get kind of nervous because I wasn't around people, because I was just kind of a brain on a stick, or a stick at least, when I was trying to program. And so I found that you have to kind of force yourself into those social situations where you do become vocal. If it scares you a little bit or makes you a little bit nervous, which it did with me years ago, if it makes you a little bit nervous to be around a lot of people, then spend more time around people and keep doing it over and over and over again until you get to a point where you're comfortable. And I got to say, when it comes to introverts or anybody that feels really shy, I've got this methodology, and I'll draw this with my finger here. See if I can get this done. So in order to get more confident, and this is generic enough of an answer to apply to everybody, but in order to become more confident and reach your goals in life, you have to not give a damn what anybody thinks of you. And I'm not telling you to be, or us to be disingenuous, but I'm just telling you not to give a damn. And if you care what other people think of you, you'll always be their prisoner, and you'll never reach your full potential in life, because all you'll be thinking about is, oh my gosh, are people thinking of me? What are they saying? Who cares? Because as Dr. Seuss said, those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. So here's the chart. On the x-axis here is your age, and on the y-axis is give a darn. Okay, give a darn and your age. When you're younger, like my kids, you're down here. You're young. You don't give a damn what people think of you. When you're older, you're here. You don't give a damn what people think of you. Old people don't have confidence problems, usually. The problem is when you're in your 20s or a teenager or 30s, you're up here. You give a damn what people think of you. And I was so damn insecure. I care what people thought. And I call this the triangle of despair, and I want you to eliminate it from your life. I want you to tell yourself, I don't care what people think of my career decision. I don't care what people think of my hair. I don't care what people think of my crappy car, etc. I don't care. I don't care what people with my clothes. I'm just happy being me. And if you do that, you'll reach this awesome level of euphoria, happiness, a great feeling you've never felt before in your life. And I recommend you live at this level always, because the best entrepreneurs live at this level always, right? And a lot of entrepreneurs in the tech sector actually were introverts as well. And a lot of them just don't give a damn though. And they became extroverts because they just don't care. And they force themselves to be in social situations. So live at this level, man. All the best entrepreneurs are like that. They don't care what people think of them. They're happy just being themselves. It's too hard to be anybody else. Just be you. People love you for who you are. All right. I love that question. Thank you. You remind me of myself when I was younger. Oh, to be young again. Next question is, how do you overcome laziness and YouTube addiction? Turn off this webcast immediately. Just kidding. How do you overcome laziness and YouTube addiction? It seems like the only thing that engages me lately is watching videos on YouTube about existential topics. And then you wrote here, procrastination. Yeah. Well, there's a great book I want to recommend on procrastination that I never finished. Okay, that is the last dad humor of the day. I promise you. I promise you. Yeah. So I just think I think whatever you're looking up on YouTube is something you got to consider making your career. You know, usually when my students ask me, what should I do with my career? I always tell them, follow your passion. Like I used to say, if you were given a month off and you can't travel and you can't go to school, what would you do with your time? And you can't work. What would you do with your time? That's your job. That's what you should be doing. Or as Confucius said, have an occupation you love and you'll never work a day for the rest of your life. Whatever it is that you're watching on YouTube that edutains you or entertains you, I want you to think about turning that into a job. Who cares what other people think? And you mentioned existential topics. Maybe you're meant to be a writer or a professor or, I don't know, a maker of movies. You can write scripts, turn them into film if that's another passion of yours. But I don't think that's being lazy. I think it's just you and your calling. Do whatever makes you happy in life. And ignore everybody else that tells you to do otherwise. And if you want, you can provide with more details on the existential topics, and I can humbly try to give you my feedback on what career might make sense. But finding your passion career-wise is like finding love. You'll know when you find it. You'll know when you find it because when you're doing what you love doing, it's kind of like when you have your kids, and obviously having kids is better than anything I'm about to explain. But the first time you hold your kid in the hospital, you unlock this insanely great level of euphoria and happiness that you never thought you could feel before. You capture part of that lightning in a bottle when you do what you love every day. Not as good as the feeling as holding your kids, obviously, but a little bit like it. When you follow your heart, your mind follows. And I always want you to chase your dreams, and I want you to fail a lot. That's right. Because you only have to be right in business one time. And anybody that's put a dent in their universe, so to speak, or any industry sector, has failed more times than you and I have combined. You can even look at somebody like J.K. Rowling. She's great. About 30 publishers said no to her when she was trying to get her Harry Potter series published. And she was a single mother. God bless her. I don't think there's such thing as a deadbeat mother. She was a single mother working as an assistant in England. She was miserable. And so she failed 30 times. And now she's a billionaire. But if I told you that you will fail 30 times and the 31st time you will have this perfect life, then would you fail 30 times? Damn right you would. I want you to fail more often. and not give a damn what anybody thinks of you. And all these great entrepreneurs have failed a lot. A lot of them have been fired as well. Michael Bloomberg, for example, was fired by Merrill Lynch. He certainly got even with them. Merrill Lynch doesn't exist anymore. B of A bought them in 2008. Robert Redford was fired by an oil company. Madonna was fired by Dunkin' Donuts, which is crappy coffee compared to Tim Hortons in Canada. But just all these people had these little setbacks earlier in their lives, and they didn't give a damn what anybody thought of them. They just kept failing over and over and over again until they became successful. Oh, I love my coffee. Okay, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, but I do coffee, and I love it. I only drink 1 cup a day, and I have it in this heater thing so that I don't drink more. Because when my coffee used to get lukewarm, I'd finish it off and get another cup. This kind of minimizes how much caffeine I drink. Yeah. Juan David in the house. How are you? Juan David is our brilliant 17-year-old from Chicago, right? Yeah. And he wrote a best-selling book that I'm humbled to say I wrote the foreword for that was profiled as a Renaissance man book in the Chicago Tribune recently. He's also given 2 TEDx talks at 17. Amazing. So Juan is saying, hi, Chris. How are you doing? I'm great. Thank you. Hope you and your mom are doing great in Chicago. And read his book, by the way. Do a search on Juan David Campolargo. And it's called Generation Optimism, his book, right? You can get it on Amazon. But it talks about his life story as well. And he came from very humble background in Venezuela, and he publicly disclosed this. And then his father is watching from heaven right now. Very proud of you, having done your 2 TEDx talks, etc., and the book you wrote. And so he lives with his mom in Chicago. And then you wrote, excited to be here, likewise. And you wrote, I have 2 questions. Okay, let me scroll in here. Question number 1 is, could you please give me feedback on my YouTube channel? I can't type the link. It's just the name, and you'll see it. I'm doing 2 strategies. 1, weekly videos, and 2, daily vlogs. Number 2, do you have any suggestions on growing my newsletter? I'd love to know what you think of mine too. Yeah, I receive it. I receive your newsletter. I enjoy it. I get it every weekend. I would just, so when it comes to the YouTube, what you're going to have to do is send me a link here. And I know that you can't send links here, but you can trick the system by, let's say you want to send me to the very left-wing news website, Fox News. Instead of typing foxnews.com, you can type Fox News space DOT and then com. So do that with your YouTube address here, and I'll check it out. And then you wrote, how do I grow my newsletter? Yeah. So I think that you have to give something away. It's like a carrot in order to entice people to give you their email address. And email, I know it seems old school, but it's still the holy grail when it comes to business online. It really, really is. You know, if we order something on Amazon, we still get auto emails telling us what we ordered. No other platform is as dominant as email when it comes to that, even though it's old school. So your goal is to collect as many emails as you can, and you have to give away something. And I'll show you what I do, and it has to do with this book here, my networking book. So if you go to my website here, and you scroll down, you'll see here that get Chris Haroun's latest ebook for free. And you enter in your name and your email here. And of course, I paid close attention to GPDR, meaning if people want to unsubscribe, they can. But this is the carrot. And then what I do is a lot of people that have found out about my MBA degree program and already enrolled, they found out because they signed up for this. And I sent an email out a little while ago on it. So I would really focus, Juan David, on getting people to give you their email addresses by you giving them something first. It might be an excerpt from your book, Generation Optimism. And maybe you can just, if you don't want to get the whole thing, you can actually say, here's a chapter from my book called Generation Optimism, which the Chicago Tribune said was remarkable work by a Renaissance man. They actually said that, named Juan David. So anyway, that's what I would do. But it also has to help them. Right. So for me, my networking book, the carrot is people download it because networking can help you get a job or anything you want in your life. So maybe with you, the anchor or call to action, whatever, once you get them to download it, is the reason they download it is because that chapter will teach you how to be much more positive and productive and happier in your life. Something like that. Yeah. All right. Edwin, how are you, Edwin? My son, Dylan, this guy here in the middle, his favorite player is Edwin Encarnacion, who used to play for the Blue Jays. But he's no longer there. And Dylan has a fathead poster on his wall of Edwin. So Edwin is saying, hi, Chris. What do you recommend for people who are trying to open a small business? Should they have a business plan, even if the business idea is already in their head? Even if you already have a business you've started, I want you to do a business plan. Same thing with stocks. Before you buy any stocks, I want you to do a one-page write-up, which I teach you in my finance courses. And if you already have that stock and you bought it, then I want you to use buy and homework strategy and still do a write-up on it. It keeps you unemotional. It makes you long-term focused as well. And makes you not panic when the market goes down, because as Warren Buffett said, the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. So when it comes to a business plan, I really believe that failing to plan is planning to fail. And you should write a business plan before you start a company. And what you can do actually is, I have a course that's on Udemy. You can go to my website to get all of my courses at the lowest prices here. And then it's called a complete business plan course. And I give you, let me open it here in incognito mode. I give you 50 different, 50 templates for business plans. I walk you through the whole process, even if you have no idea what finance or accounting is. I cover everything, man. Every qualitative and quantitative aspect of a business plan. And it's a 9-hour course. And I poured my heart into it. And if that course, if it convinces you not to start a company, I've done my job, because I've saved you a lot of heartache, pain, and money, and years on your life. But if it also helps you start a company that becomes a world beater or puts a dent in the universe, so to speak, I feel equally as great. The bottom line is, though, you should never start a company without writing a business plan first. All right. All right, next up, question is, hi, Chris. What is the best way of getting a partner for business? Should both the partner have shares only by money capital? Okay, so the best way to get a partner is you got to think about, first of all, if you're trying to select somebody to start a company with, you got to think about your gaps. What are your gaps in your skill set? Like with Steve Jobs, he was great at marketing and selling, great salesperson. God bless him. He's no longer with us, of course, but he wasn't the best at technology, right? So what happened was he found Wozniak. So I want you to find your Woz. And a great way to find your Woz is to leverage LinkedIn. And you can read my networking book, which you can download for free from my website. It'll teach you how to network like crazy to find your Woz, so to speak. And you can also go to meetup events once this whole COVID thing dies down. And a lot of people are actually returning to work here. But I'll show you. You go to meetup.com. And I'll just go here, actually. Meetup.com. And you type in your city name and what you're interested in. So let's just type in, I'm from Mississauga, which has a bigger population than San Francisco, but not many people know about that. And then you can write in here, I don't know, software developer or whatever it is. And you can search through here and find people. It looks like it took my current zip code here. But if you enter it in your postal code in Canada or whatever it is, you get to go to meetings with people here. They're called meetups. And this works all over the world, and it's free. And it's a great way for you to network as well, to find your Woz or your jobs if you're a techie. Okay. And then you wrote here, should we both have shares only by money capital? So please provide me with a little bit more color before I answer that. But whenever it comes to legal contracts, don't ever do them yourself, please. Get a lawyer to do it. And if you're ever given a contract at a company that's not massive, but if you're given a contract to join a company, I want you to hire a lawyer to review it. And I know it might seem kind of costly to do it, but it's the right move, and it'll save your butt in the long run. Saved me big time before. And the way to get access to lawyers that are cheap, which is an oxymoron, I guess, is you go to LegalZoom.com. And for $30, if you have a company like I do, you can talk to any lawyer you want. And I file all my intellectual property trademarks, copyrights, et cetera here. But you can talk to any lawyer you want to. And actually, if it's a personal thing, it's $15. If it's a business type call, it's $30, which is a great deal. Great deal. And then, of course, they upsell you a little bit on their products, which are great, actually. And they're cheap. But I can't give legal advice because I'm not a lawyer. I don't like lawyers either. Yeah. Unless you're a civil rights lawyer, then I love you. Or if you're defending me, then you're okay. Yeah. All right. And I'm trying to wonder, like I've met a lot of lawyers that are nice, but I've met a bunch that are just jerks. And I wonder, are you an asshole before law school, or does law school teach you that? Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right, next up. Hi, Chris. I have one question. My company is depending on offline marketing, meaning word of mouth, you wrote here, face-to-face meetings, referrals, etc. I need advice. How can we shift to online marketing? How should we start? Yeah, that's a great question. Great question. So YouTube is the only gold rush in history that costs you nothing to make the product. And YouTube is the only gold rush in history where you can get billions of potential customers immediately for free. And so the best way to take your bricks and mortar business to clicks and mortar or online is to become a thought leader and write often. And I want you to make YouTube videos as well. And I have a course on Udemy called the Complete YouTube Course, which I actually made with one of my students, Sasha Stevenson. She has over 100 million views. But she was one of my students actually in week number 10 here. And she gave me advice. And so I asked her, hey, let's make a course together. But take that course if you want to, the complete YouTube course. And the way to get it actually, and coupons for all my stuff, I'll show you right here for Udemy, is you just go to my website, Haroun Education, and then here just online courses. And then scroll down to right here, the complete YouTube course. It's 18 hours. And we go into a lot of detail on everything you need to know to be successful on YouTube. And Sasha is much better than I'm at this YouTube stuff. But I'm having fun. I'm getting better. But I think that what you need to do is to provide value with your videos. Try to help people for free. I believe in this whole give and take mentality. It's karma or karma synchronicity, call it what you will. It's prophetic. It's been true since the beginning of time. If you give, you will receive in the long run. And you have to give with your heart. You can't do it for ulterior motives. You just want to help people. And so if you give away a lot of information through YouTube videos on how to do something, and you save people money or help them make money or make them happier, whatever it is, then what will happen is you'll become a brand name, you'll become a thought leader, and people will turn to you, and you'll be able to upsell or cross-sell your products that way. It's what I do, and the business model is working. So make sure that you give a lot, help people. And there's a great book called Give and Take. And the bottom line is this. The poorest 1% of people in the world, the ones with beautiful souls, like my hero, Mother Teresa, God bless her, the poorest 1% of people in the world are givers. They give. The middle 98% of people in the world are takers. They're avaricious. They're selfish. They just take. The top 1% of people in the world by net worth, not that money is a measure of how much I respect you, but the top 1% of people in the world are givers as well, and they're billionaires. They give with their heart. And then in return, people help them as well. But they never did it for just reasons of trying to make money. They weren't long-term greedy in that respect. They just want to help. And by the same token with you, with your business, as you move from offline to online, I want you to have the same mentality. I want you to create one YouTube video every week just to start. And it will get a lot better. My early YouTube videos were brutal, but it's getting better now because I've learned. Like Michael Jordan, and I've got a great poster here for Michael Jordan. I got to show you this. Hold on one second. it's up there in a wall. It's hard to read. But Michael Jordan said, "I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed." So you just got to put yourself out there, make YouTube videos on your product or the industry in general, and eventually it becomes self-fulfilling. People think of you as a thought leader. How do you become a thought leader? You have to think like a thought leader and make it happen. So the bottom line is I want you to start making YouTube videos every single week. And then eventually I want you to repurpose that content to other platforms as well. So for example, let's say your YouTube video is helping people solve problem X with whatever industry you're in. And let's say it's 5 minutes. Well, you can take a 1 minute snapshot of that, 1 minute excerpt, and throw that onto Instagram if you wanted to, or Twitter, or LinkedIn, etc. So just remember, you got to repurpose content as well, and just be a thought leader. And you become a thought leader by opining or giving your opinion quite often, leveraging social media. And please don't be a perfectionist when it comes to this stuff. It's never going to be perfect. Just get it out there and be consistent. All right. And read my networking book too. I promise you it'll help you. I promise you. And you can do networking meetings online. Like people don't realize that you can still conduct commerce online and network as well. And my students, and Jose is one of my great students. He lives in Brooklyn. He has a payments business, and he started to network using my methodology. He's one of my students' MBA class, but he's using my methodology to get a bunch of Zoom meetings with random people that could become big customers of his. You have to ask. If you want anything in life, you got to ask over and over and over again. Ask and you will receive. It's prophetic, and it's been true since the beginning of time. And your homework is to search YouTube for 3 words: Steve Jobs ask. Okay, and that's a 1 minute video. Steve Jobs ask. That video will change your life. Oh, that's good. I've got this new protein powder that my son Andrew bought. It's Cinnamon Toast Crunch Quest protein powder. It's so good. And every now and then you get these little bits of Cinnamon Toast Crunch in it too. It's good stuff. CTC, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Okay. If I've missed any questions in between, just post it again, please. All right, hold on a second. Question is from Edwin. Hey, Chris, I'm competing with a company that has more money than I do. What strategy should I use to win clients? Where the person can lower the price in the market and not care about profits. Yeah, it's tough. And that's what happened to Intel in the early 80s. They were in the DRAM business. And then Japanese companies cared more at that time about market share than margins, and it forced them to get out of the business. And I just remember, because we talked about it in a case study recently in my class. I think a company is only as good as its customer service. And I think if you offer the absolute best customer service, then you can charge a premium price. You can. Like a lot of people, buy these things. And 80% of my students actually watch my weekly webcast. I track the data, use Android phones. And technically speaking, and I'm going to upset people here, Android phones are better because you can do more stuff with it, right? It's kind of like Windows versus Mac years ago, and even today. However, because Apple has and Android phones are cheaper too. It's a better buy. However, Apple has unbelievable customer service with the Genius bars or support on the phone, etc. So I don't mind paying a tiny premium, a bit more of a premium to get this versus a Galaxy device or an Android device. I think a company is only as good as its customer service. And there's a great video I want you to watch. Just go to YouTube and do a search for 1990s Jeff Bezos interview on customer service. And the bottom line of that speech is that he mentions that profitability and customer service are completely aligned in the long run. That's why he's so long-term focused. As Warren Buffett said, the longer the view, the wiser the intention. So I would focus on adding a tremendous amount of customer support to the extent that people don't mind paying a premium for your product. So, and when you're trying to win customers versus that competitor that's trying to undercut you there, I want you to sell yourself to your customer, potential customer, by saying that we have the absolute best customer support. We will walk through walls for you. We're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And I have a long list of references I can provide you with that will attest to that as well. We're there for you. We care about our customers. Yeah. All right. All right. All right. Edwin is saying, hi, Chris. I'm very good in Adobe Photoshop. Now, and I want to teach it online, but I don't have an Adobe certified instructor certificate. What is your advice? Oh, dude, you don't need you don't need that, please. You don't need that. If you go to Udemy, let's go to Udemy together. And there's a ton of people that teach Photoshop, and I love Photoshop. It's fun. I finally figured it out. It's all about layers. Once you figure out layers and Control T and Control D, then it's easier. But if you go to Udemy and you go to Photoshop, there's tons of Photoshop courses here, and I've looked through them because I thought about making a course on Photoshop. I'm not going to do it though. And I don't remember in any instance seeing any mention of somebody having a certification. So having internet problems here, but just go to udemy.com. Oh, here we go. We're good. It's probably my computer, not theirs. You go to Photoshop here. And I don't think these people here have any sort of background in Photoshop. Let me just pick 3 random ones. Yeah, I bet you if you read the bios on these 3 people, whatever courses I've selected here, I doubt like this person here who has over 100,000 students. Wow, he's done well. All right, this guy. Okay, this is where doing live webcasts makes me look like an idiot. Adobe certified instructor. Okay, they're not all certified instructors. Okay, good. Okay, one data point doesn't make a trend. Okay, so this guy here, who has 172,000 students, he's doing great. He doesn't have any sort of Photoshop certification. So I don't think you need it. I don't think you need it. You don't need an institution to tell you that you can teach something. The institution being Adobe. I'm not a certified YouTube expert, if that even exists. And people that want to learn Photoshop, they don't even know what that certification means. Adobe Certified Professional. So I think if you teach in an edutaining way and you're upbeat with the way you present, then you can do extraordinarily well. And just remember that Maya Angelou said, people might not remember what you said, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. So just be yourself and teach. And if I can help you, actually, I've got free courses on how to teach online. So I've made every mistake there is to make. So just go to Udemy and then search for Chris Haroun. And then here, when you find my name here on where do I find it here? Yeah, I guess I'll click here. Yeah, but just search on my name and then go to my Udemy profile. And when you're there, what I want you to do is I'm logged in as me. That's why it's not showing up. But what I want you to do is just search for do a search for a couple courses I made called 40 Tips on How to Teach a Great Online Course. And another one's called Another 40 Tips on How to Make a Great Online Course. And I teach you based on 40 mistakes I've made one year and 40 mistakes I made another year teaching online, so you can work smarter and not harder. Anybody can do it. All you have to have is this and heart and an internet connection, which you have. So after you take those free courses of mine, if you still have questions, come here every week and ask me. And I'll do whatever it takes to help you onboard and get your course online. Yeah, whatever it takes. Anybody can do it. And you don't need any educational institution to say that you're credible. You don't need to go to Oxford or Cambridge, just to be thought of as somebody credible. Because a lot of those kids that went there because their parents got in. It's legacy. The system's kind of rigged. And I've got this war against educational institutions mentality in my mind. It's a love-hate relationship. I love them because I think education solves every problem in the world. But these stuffy, high-end educational institutions, I just don't like the snobbery behind it, where somebody can only feel like they're going to make it in life because they have a certain brand name of education behind them. Total horse crap. Yeah. Yeah. And I think my kids might be the last generation to feel like they have to go to university. University is ridiculous anyway. It's 4 years. And in most undergraduate institutions, after 4 years, you don't learn anything tangible to help you make it in the real world, unless it's like computer science. And you're also $100,000 in debt. And you have only 13 hours of class a week. But yeah, anyway, I think that universities are going to change materially. I don't think online will replace it entirely, but I do think that undergraduate degrees will become 2 years and will be supplemented with a lot of online stuff and what I refer to as digital Darwinism or educational Darwinism. Yeah. Okay. Omar is saying, hi, Chris. Hey, Omar. Omar is saying, quick question. One of the advantages of going to an Ivy League MBA school is networking. Does your program have any networking or guest speakers for networking opportunities? Yeah, so I teach you networking on steroids. I teach you the best networking skills you'll ever learn. I take it to the next level. It'll help you tremendously. In terms of networking with other students, my students in the program right now, the ones doing the platinum and gold version of the program, they have a Slack channel and they network a lot and they use Zoom a lot with each other and they help each other out and they're amazing. I love them to death. Love them to death. Yeah. You don't need to go to an Ivy League school to be able to network. In fact, I think there's some entitlement that comes out of some people going to schools like that anyway, because they feel like they don't have to network. People will come to them. But please keep in mind that a lot of people that started in the mailroom with no education made it to the corner office to become CEO because they networked a lot. And you can read my book, go to harounventures.com, download it for free on networking. I'll give you examples of people who went from the mailroom to the corner office. Barry Diller, also David Geffen, Simon Cowell from American Idol, the former presidents of ESPN and Cosmopolitan magazine, the former CEO of Goldman Sachs for decades, a guy named Sidney Weinberg. There's tons of them. Why? Why the mailroom? Because people that work in the mailroom, they network. You know, they'll give mail to, people every day and say, top of the morning to you, did you see the game last night? Or whatever it is. They learn to network. And this book here, which is free, download from my website, will teach you how to network as well. In terms of guest speakers, yes, there will be plenty. Now, we have not had them yet because I actually have because of the whole Corona thing, we couldn't go down to the valley. I'm close to the valley here, Silicon Valley, and so I know a lot of CEOs from the top tech companies, and I'm going to interview them later this year. And I'm showing this camera angle because this camera, you can see it's kind of turning. It's on what's called a slider, the same slider that Dan Rather uses to interview people. It's made by a company called OMC or One Man Crew. But yes, we will do it. We will do it. And we'll probably start doing it on Zoom shortly as well. Yeah. And if you're not happy with the MBA degree program, within the first 30 days, you get your money back. And the MBA degree program, the silver version, which is $499, is the same price literally as 1 hour of education from a lot of MBA schools, traditional MBA schools. Yeah. And you don't get your money back with them either. And to learn more, just go to harouneducation.com and just go to the FAQs, please, for the MBA program. Okay. All right, next question is, how do you really know that a site is legitimate before paying for things online, especially because there's lots of scams trying to steal your Visa card? Yeah. Well, if you ever do get scammed, of course, you can call the credit card company and get your money back. That's why they charge crazy fees, one of the reasons. But one way to know is you can go to the Better Business Bureau website, or you can search on the name of that company and the word scam. That's what I recommend. That's what I recommend. Yeah. And if you want, tell me the name of the company, and I'll humbly tell you if I think they're a scammer or not. You can also go to Reddit. Like Reddit is a fantastic place to go for answers on whether or not companies are legit, because consumers give their honest opinions and they get voted up by others, right? It's friction-free capitalism. Like everybody has their own. It's great. It's fantastic. And you can also go to Quora, Quora. Yeah. And a friend of mine, Kelly Battles, is the CFO of Quora. I'm talking to her husband, Brett, today at 6 p.m. Good dude. Yeah. All right. And Omar is saying, what are your thoughts on how to start your own consulting business? Yeah. So it's all about networking. Relationships are more important than product knowledge. And just read my networking book. You can go to HarounEducation.com to read it. But your net worth is your network. And so what I would do is whatever type of consulting firm you're starting, you can leverage LinkedIn and find people that might be potential customers. And read my book for more details on that, or you can take my MBA degree program and I'll teach you networking skills that will blow away the competition. Yeah. But the consulting industry is very fragmented. And when people think of consulting, they think of just big firms like McKinsey or Accenture or Bain and Company, et cetera. It's actually, there's over 100,000 consulting companies in the United States alone. Very fragmented. And a lot of people just call them consultants because they can register their own company and they get great tax breaks, which you can. So before starting your company or while you start your company, make sure to hire a lawyer to incorporate, because also you don't want to get sued if some schmuck comes after you. And schmuck, by the way, is the word for lawyer. Unless you're civil rights lawyer, then I love you. But you got to register your company. Because if you get sued, then they can't take away your house, your cars, hurt your kids, that sort of thing, lifestyle. Yeah. But I think that it all comes down to networking in general. Yeah. And I think that in order to gain credibility, whatever it is you want to consult about, you have to opine a lot. You got to give your opinion online a lot. You got to you have to publish, at least once a week on LinkedIn. Try to do YouTube vlogs, etc. And I have a course on Udemy, the complete YouTube course that will help you with that as well. And as with all my courses, there's a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee, except for one course. One of my courses is called the Complete Job Course. And for that one, there's a lifetime 100% money back guarantee. Because I'm so confident that with my methodologies on how to network and how to interview, you will get the job of your dreams or your money back forever. And that's a personal guarantee from me. Yeah. And Edwin is saying, after this pandemic is over, do you really think things will go back to normal, especially the economy? Well, I think things will. The new normal is just social distancing. Yeah, I don't think people are going to shake hands anymore. It's like when I go to church, people shake hands. But here in America, and when I used to go to church in Hong Kong, when I was there for a while, people would bow. And so I think that type of bowing, type of cultural greeting will be more universal, or some sort of wave. I think that things will never go back to the exact same way they were before. I think that there won't be any touching at all. But I do think business will return to normal, but I think it'll really be supplemented with online. And the good thing about, the only bright side, so what's happening, it's terrible. The biggest bright side is you get to spend more time with your family and you can't get the time back. But also companies are learning to adapt to the new digital economic reality of doing business almost entirely online. And another positive benefit might be that more people are allowed to work from home, which is great. It's great for the environment. It's great from a family perspective. You can be there to mentor your kids before they leave the house. You're like, oh my God, I didn't spend enough time with them. And it's also a way to be more efficient because you don't have to waste time commuting. So there are some unanticipated positive benefits. And God willing, and I pray daily that we get through this and we find a cure. But until then, and we don't know when that's coming, I think just the new reality is a lot of people are going to be having meetings like we're doing right here, online. And I pride myself on walking through walls for my students and doing whatever it takes to make them successful. My reputation's always on the line. And so as part of my MBA degree program, I'm teaching my students soon, in semester 3 actually, how to set up an amazing backdrop the easy way by using what you have, not buying new equipment. And so I'm adapting. Everyone's adapting. Now, if you look at commercials from any big company, they've all adapted already. They move faster than governments. They've changed their business models. Everything about it is changed. Go to any website and you'll see everybody's adapted somehow. So let's go here to SurveyMonkey. Everybody's adapting somehow. Everybody. When your home becomes your office, everybody's adapting. Big companies, they I'm so sorry, I didn't even show you that. Bo's right here. When your office becomes your home becomes your office. SurveyMonkey, same thing here. All big companies have already adapted. And companies always adapt much faster and change and turn their ships around much faster than governments can, because they're smaller and more nimble. Yeah. But no, I think the economic reality is we're all going to be doing a lot more work from home. Yeah. And I feel bad for people that were supposed to get married or had other events like funerals. It's so sad because there's been this government mandated, stay at home thing, which is starting to come undone actually in a lot of states. Yeah. And Omar is saying, what are your thoughts on Ray Dalio's Principles book? Also, what are your thoughts on Think and Grow Rich? Yeah, I've not read Think and Grow Rich, although people mention it a lot. My favorite book, actually, business book, is this one here. Everyone should read it. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Yeah. In terms of Ray Dalio in general, yeah. So for those of you not familiar with Ray Dalio, he is probably the richest person in the hedge fund industry. He's a billionaire a million times over. And he talks about principles. And the reality is, and I got to be careful what I say here, I'm fully transparent as always. I have friends that were very senior there, that worked there, that no longer work there. And the turnover rate there is 40%. And from a culture perspective, everybody is kind of on pins and needles because every single meeting, without exception, every meeting is recorded. Every conversation is recorded as well. And everybody knows it, except if you're in the bathroom. I'm not joking. And so it's really, really uncomfortable. And yes, those principles that he preaches might lead to, increased profitability in the short run. But I don't believe in management by fear. I don't believe in micromanaging employees to the extent that you record everything they say. It's just really uncomfortable. Really uncomfortable. So anyway, those are my humble thoughts. All right. Andrew Dupree. You mean Dupree is here. How are you, bud? Andrew is an American living in Canada, and he's the inverse of me. I'm a Canadian living in America. And we met recently, or last summer, I should say, at University of Toronto, Arundel branch in Mississauga, close to where my parents live. It's great to see you. Jason, who's also one of my other amazing MBA degree students. Jason's from Australia. He lives in Florida right now. And they're returning to Australia first. It's so funny, though, because I kid you not, Andrew and Jason, along with my brother Jamie, were the first people to warn me about this whole Corona thing. They were the early warnings guys for me. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. And what I do with my kids in my house, and I think one of the issues with kids and washing hands is they put their hands in their mouth a lot. And I do as well, right? And this is very self-deprecating. Laugh at me. I don't care. I want to help if I possibly can. But the issue is that I bite my nails. I always have, and I always will. Okay, I've tried to stop. It's hard. But what I've been doing is I bought this stuff here. My kids do as well because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Monkey see, monkey do. This stuff here, it's called Probell, Probelle, and it tastes awful, right? It's terrible. And so you put it on your nails, that sort of, and then if you bite your nails, whatever, it tastes brutal, man. It's brutal. Yeah. But I think everybody should get that if your kids put their hands in their mouth. Yeah. And then Jason is saying, my middle son wants to buy a HyperX Quadcast microphone. Looks quite good. Have you seen it? I've never heard of that, actually. I've never heard of it. Yeah. So the microphone that I use, I'll show you guys. So I use a couple of microphones. So this one here, it's a bit pricey. The problem is you have to be close to it. It's called a SMB, Shure SM7B. Clearly, I'm not a spokesperson for this. The problem with this is you have to be close to it. Like if I'm away from it, it doesn't work as well. That's that. What I also use is to record my courses as backup is this amazing device called an H1N. And it hooks up to a lavalier. And you probably can't see this. Let me get out of the way here. There's the wire. I do this just in case my audio goes down. It's a cheap way to have backup. And let me actually show you what this looks like. Let's do the overhead. I haven't done this thing in a while here. I got to work on the white balance in this, yeah. But this thing here, it attaches to a lavalier, okay? And then what you do is you just plug in the lavalier here and then attach the lavalier to your shirt. And then you hit record. And the reason I have tape on it is because the only problem with the design of this H1N is the gain here, right? That makes it loud or not loud enough. And if it's too loud, you've lost audio forever. You can't fix it. And that's why I put this thing on it. Because when I put this in my pocket, I don't want it to, kind of get messed up. All right. So that's another microphone I use. Now, the third one I use, and I recommend everybody's just starting with audio to do what I'm about to show you, is I use a Blue Yeti. And a Blue Yeti works great. In my first 20 or so Udemy courses, I used a Blue Yeti, which was about this far away from me. You couldn't even see it in camera, and it still picked up. I'll show you what it looks like. Here it is here. It's my backup camera, just in case. And this is the cheapest one. It's called a Blue Yeti Nano. And there's a button on the back, and if you push it, it basically says, okay, you can only record from here. If you push it again, it records all the way around. Right, so Blue Yeti now, and what I can do is actually let me see if I can show you what it sounds like. So, versus this one. So what I'll do is I will add a new audio source here. Okay, actually hold on a second. I'll make it down this lane here. And so this product here I'm using is called Wirecast, and you can get a free version of a product like this called OBS. Okay, so right now it's on. Okay, and let me just turn off. Hold on. So there's going to be no audio for a second. Wait. Yeah. Okay. So this here now is the Blue Yeti Nano. It's the cheapest Blue Yeti you can get. And you can't buy black Blue Yetis anymore. They're sold out everywhere. So you have to get them in pink or blue or whatever the colors are left. They're sold out for obvious reasons. So here's what it sounds like. And so what I can do is I made it all the way around. So if I were to walk around my studio, you'll still be able to hear me. Now, it's not a deep sound like this one here, which is now it's now off. All I've got on is this one here. So when I walk around the studio, you can see you can still hear me, right? So even from over here, it still works from any angle. And it's good if you're doing a meeting with a bunch of people and you're both doing an online meeting, but a couple of you are in the same physical location. Now, let me switch over to this one here. This here is called, again, the Shure SM7B. And I've got it hooked up to this box down here. It's like an amplifier called an F8N. But this one here, let me just turn off the Blue Yeti. Hold on a second. Test. Okay. Now I'm on this one. You can tell the sound of this one is much deeper. But the problem is you have to be close to it. So if I go over here, you can't hear me as well, right? So I'm over here walking around. It's tough. You can hear me, but not that well. So, but you do get a deeper sound, and people like Joe Rogan and Seth Rogen use this for their shows. And it works out quite well. But if you're just getting started, I recommend getting a blue Yeti. Yeah. So let me just put this away here. All right. All right. Let me just get set up here. Okay. All right. And next up is Gregory. Hey, Gregory, how are you? You're based in Europe, right? I remember you sent me a message recently. Greg is saying, hello, Chris. I hope everything is okay for you and your family. Do you know the documentary Finding Joe from Patrick Solomon? I'm so sorry. I've not seen that. But my goal is to get, and I've got 8.5 years to do it, because a year and a half ago, I told you guys I was going to get this within 10 years. My goal is to get an Academy Award. I'm a fraud. This is not real. I'm a fraud. My goal is within 10 years, I have 8.5 years left to do it. I want to get an Academy Award for Best Business Documentary that makes the world a better place. So I don't know what the topic's going to be yet, but anyway, and this is actually interesting because this is actually a pretty good replica. It's 13.5 inches tall. Way too heavy for me. I'm pretty weak. But if you look at the top of it, and I'll show you a top-down view. It's fascinating, actually. If you look at the top here, you can see these 5 circles. And these 5 circles are they're like film canisters. They represent the 5 original branches of the Academy, which is kind of interesting. I love it. I love movies. I love business movies. The best way to learn about business sometimes is just watching business movies. If you want to learn about private equity, you can watch the movie Other People's Money with Danny DeVito. If you want to learn about how economics works, you can watch a movie that was on HBO that you can get online now and rent called Too Big to Fail with Paul Giamatti. And it's amazing. It's great. Yeah. And William Hurt, who played Hank Paulson brilliantly. Okay. And Sushmita is saying, what did you do when you had to switch companies which were far from your house? How did you save time and transportation charges? Did you rent a different house near your workspace? Yeah. Yeah. So when I worked in consulting years ago at Accenture, I worked I was based out of Toronto. But I worked in the Carolinas, North Carolina, in Charlotte, on the merger of Nations Bank and Bank of America. And I also worked in Barbados to set up an offshore bank for CIBC. CIBC stands for Constantly in Bed with Consultants. No, it doesn't. It's Canadian Bank. Great bank. Don't sue me. CIBC. But CIBC and Nations Bank and Bank of America, they paid for everything, right? So it's usually the client that pays for all that stuff if they're going to put you out of town. In terms of saving money on transportation charges, I mean, carpooling might be one way to go. And by the way, if you have extraordinarily very, very high commuting fees, and it's for your job, I want you to talk to an accountant. I'm not an accountant or a tax lawyer, but talk to an accountant to see if you can write that off. You know, and even if people are unemployed, if you take courses or buy books and stuff to help you get a job, you can write that off. I'm not going to tell you how it works because I'm not qualified to do so, but talk to an accountant, please, or a tax lawyer, which are expensive, but definitely worth it. Yeah. All right. And also, you said you're thinking of renting a house elsewhere. You got to look at the taxes in different regions as well. So here in Silicon Valley, California, the taxes are insanely high. It's crazy. Like it's so damn high here that Tony Robbins used to live here in California. Not too long ago, he picked up and moved to Florida where the taxes are really low. But what a lot of people do here in the state of California is they actually have a house in Nevada. Okay, not too far away from here. It's like a 4-hour drive. And they live there for six months and 1 day, so that they can pay really low taxes there. So you might also want to look at the tax mandate as well, that you might have to incur if you get another place. And if the other place you get has lower taxes, then you can think about claiming that as your primary residence. Again, talk to a lawyer first, a tax lawyer, and your accountant. Yeah. Next question is from DeafGuy319. Hi, Chris. Hope you and your family are doing great. Likewise. I got laid off my job. I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah. And this is why I'm here. I want to help again. Okay. I got laid off in my job in the United States, and I'm planning to move to Canada. Do you have advice on finding something in Canada as a newbie? I heard it's a tougher job hunt. Yeah. I don't think it's tougher. What I recommend doing is I'm going to give you my complete job course for free. So just send me an email and then remind me your moniker here, DeafGuy309. Send me an email to chris@harounventures.com, and I'm going to give you my complete job course for free. Because it's going to teach you how to network better than anybody, how to write a resume better than anybody, how to write a LinkedIn profile better than anybody, so you can get the job of your dreams. And that's a course I have a lifetime money back guarantee, but I'm giving it to you for free. So send me an email. I promise you it'll help you a lot. But I think networking is key. And if you want, you can just download this book here from my website. It's free on networking, because I promise you, if you read that cover to cover and you use the methodologies that I teach you in that 200-page book, if you use those methodologies, I guarantee you will get the job of your dreams. Yeah. All right. Vangelis is saying, hi, Chris. Thanks for recommending OPM, meaning other people's money. It was a very pleasant watch. It's a great movie to learn about private equity. And Danny DeVito did a great job. Yeah. And then you wrote here, I was wondering, what's your take on The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham as a growth investor? Thanks again. Yeah. So people are either value investors, meaning they like to buy cheap stuff that's not growing fast, or they're growth investors. They buy expensive stuff that's growing fast. And so Warren Buffett and the author of The Intelligent Investor, meaning Graham and Dodd, Warren Buffett and Graham and Dodd are value investors. They're not growth investors. So as a value investor, if you read that book, it's a good book. I've read it. And when Warren Buffett he came and taught one of my classes in business school, because he's an alumni from there as well. His wife was there. God bless her, she passed away. But his wife was teasing him because he brought that book, The Intelligent Investor, with him on their honeymoon. Right? He's so passionate about it. But to be intellectually honest, the book is a little bit slow. It's slow. Like if you're going to read it first thing in the morning when you're fresh. Yeah. But it will teach you the basics of value investing. But as a growth investor for you, I don't know if it's going to be help that much, but it will help you to the extent that you understand how other investors think, meaning value investors. And one thing we have to understand is that all great growth stocks eventually become a value stock. They transition because they can't grow anymore. And they can't grow because they just get too big. It's not their fault. It's like the U.S. economy. The U.S. economy is close to a third of global revenue for the world, meaning global GDP. And as a result, doesn't grow very fast. Just the law of large numbers. So eventually, every company that is a growth company growing fast slows growth. And they lose all the growth investors. And they transition over to value. And never invest in a company that is transitioning from growth to value investors, because it's in what I refer to as investment purgatory. It's no man's land. And it usually takes about a decade for a company, after it stopped growing, to lose all the growth investors and eventually become a value investment. And what can expedite that movement from growth to value, meaning what can truncate the 10 years of investment purgatory to a couple of years or less, is if private equity investors get involved. That can be the catalyst for change. And sometimes you'll see people, brilliant people, like Carl Icahn, who's an activist private equity investor, buy a big stake in a company that's stuck in no man's land, in investment purgatory, and make changes quickly. to make it unlock shareholder value, because you're either a value investor or a growth investor. Great example of this is when Carl Icahn, he bought a massive stake in eBay, and he muscled his way onto the board. You can get a board seat if you own a big part of a company. And he forced the management team to turn over. And I remember John Donahoe left around that time. And John Donahoe was that brilliant ex-Bain consultant who was the CEO of eBay for years. I like him a lot. Every time I would meet with him, because I was an investor in eBay years ago, he's like a million feet tall, big guy. But what Carl Icahn did was he forced the company to change, and he forced a lot of executives to leave. And basically, he split the company into two. Why? Because before eBay spun off PayPal, before that, eBay was kind of thought of as a value stock, because the marketplace auction business has, good visibility from a revenue perspective. It's counter-cyclical because in awful economic environments, people sell more used stuff, but it wasn't growing. And the other part of eBay's business was PayPal, which was growing like a weed. And so investors that were growth investors didn't want to buy eBay because it's kind of that slow growth value investment side to it, meaning eBay marketplace auctions. And by contrast, value investors didn't want to buy eBay because it wasn't cheap enough yet because of that expensive high growth component, PayPal. And so what happened was, in order to truncate that investment purgatory from 10 years to just a couple of years, what happened was private equity investor activist Carl Icahn forced the company to split into two. And so value investors got to buy eBay, right, the marketplace business, and growth investors got to buy PayPal, and that unlocked shareholder value. Yeah. So, but just make sure you never invest in a company that you're not sure if growth investors want to buy it or value investors. If it's stuck in the middle, that purgatory period can last 10 years. Yeah. And it can be dead money for a while. Okay. And Ramon is saying, good morning, Chris. Good morning, everyone. Another day of great learning. Have an awesome day. Thank you. Likewise. Yeah. Yeah. And then Ben wrote here, John McAfee. I'm not sure why you're writing that. I know who he is. He was a crazy guy that he founded McAfee. And I know that the current CEO, Chris, good guy, we were on CNBC interviewing together recently. But John McAfee, he started that security company. And then eventually what happened was Intel bought that security company. I remember talking to Craig Barrett from Intel and asking, why did you buy McAfee? And he didn't give me a straight answer. And I kept asking him. And I concluded that the reason they bought it was because of McAfee had some sort of patent that they wanted to embed within the Intel chipset. And Intel is kind of getting in the software industry as well. And they use one of their products called Sniffer. Anyway, but John McAfee, he's a crazy guy apparently. Yeah. But you mentioned his name. Now you got me curious why you mentioned that. So I got to look it up, see what's going on here. Yeah. John McAfee. So many characters in software, dude. All right. What happened here? Okay. All right. So he's getting, it looks like, into crypto. Oh my God, he's 99% certain he knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is. Oh, interesting. So, and he's a little out there, as we know. So Satoshi Nakamoto apparently is the person or group of people or an entity that discovered and created Bitcoin, actually. And you could read the 9-page white paper that Satoshi wrote in early 2009. And nobody knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is. And Newsweek had a cover story on who Satoshi Nakamoto is a couple of years ago. This Japanese dude that lived in America, and they were wrong. Yeah, it actually really hurt Newsweek's credibility. But John McAfee is saying he knows who Satoshi is, and I don't know how credible John is, but yeah, I'll read up on that later though. But thank you. Yeah. Okay. Next question is Kundan is saying, what are crypto hedge funds? Please tell me something about them. Thank you. Yeah. So hedge funds in general basically means it's like a mutual fund. Like mutual funds can buy stocks. And when you buy a stock, it's called going long a stock. What a hedge fund can do is they can buy a stock as well, meaning go long it, but they can also short a stock, meaning bet against it. And it's called a hedge fund because if you think of your backyard, there's a hedge around your backyard, which is kind of a metaphor for protecting capital. You hedge your bets. And so there are some hedge funds that focus on cryptocurrencies, meaning they are allowed to go long and short cryptocurrencies. Yeah. So that's what a cryptocurrency hedge fund is. And I have a course called the Complete Cryptocurrency course that you can check out if you want to. Yeah. And I was so positive on cryptos when I first started making the course. And it's a 24-hour long course. It's long. And by the end of it, I was really negative. Yeah. Because you got to do your own research. I think a lot of people are going to go to jail that have done this whole pump and dump scam, when it comes to cryptos. It's an unregulated market. And I want you to do your own research and don't listen to me or anybody else to tell you what cryptos to buy. You take my Complete Cryptocurrency course if you want to. It'll give you a 49-step process for analyzing cryptocurrencies so that the likelihood of you getting scammed goes down a lot. Yeah. Next question is, hi, Chris, do you recommend an undergraduate to join a startup or corporate finance as a fresh graduate? Yeah. So startup or corporate. Yeah. Okay. So and let me answer the question another way because I think I didn't understand it right. Do you recommend an undergraduate to join a startup or a corporation as a fresh graduate? Yeah. So it depends what you want to do longer term. If your ultimate goal is to start a company and you want to do it earlier in life, then I think a startup might make more sense. It's risky though. If your goal longer term is to become CEO of a big company or to work at a firm like McKinsey, whatever it is, then I think joining the corporate world makes a lot more sense. You have to understand what your long-term goals are. And so what I recommend doing is going on a long walk, because I always think great on long walks because you release serotonin and endorphins, which helps you think and speak gooder. But go on a long walk, and I want you to think about your goals in 10 years. Like, where do you want to be in 10 years? And document it, write it down. And you need to then think about how do you fill that gap. Filling that gap between where you are now and where you want to be in 10 years. If you think that joining a startup will get you closer to this goal, or a big company will get you closer to that goal, then that should kind of tell you what you should be doing. Yeah. Startups are risky though. Like for every Google we hear about, there's 8 billion companies, I'm exaggerating of course, that never make it. It's just natural selection. We only hear about the ones that make it for obvious reasons. It's really, really tough, really tough. And I want you to analyze that company to death before thinking of joining them. You can take my Complete Financial Analyst course because I teach you how to analyze all types of companies. Yeah. Or join me in my MBA degree program because I teach you how to analyze private companies as well. Yeah. But you got to be a jack of all trades sometimes in startups, and it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. And if you're offered equity, meaning stock options, or salary, if you have a choice, take as much as you can in salary because they're going to give you stock options every year anyway. Yeah. And Saud is saying, how is your MBA program different from the CFA? Yeah. CFA is a wonderful designation. For those of you not familiar with it, CFA stands for Certified Financial Analyst Program. And so the CFA, it's kind of like an MBA, but only for hardcore finance stuff. And it's very, very well respected. So we cover probably every single topic in level 1 for the CFA, which I've written, as well as a lot of level 2. What we don't do, though, is a lot of the level 3 stuff. Like I'm not going to go into how to price bonds. I'm also not going to go into, how to disaggregate Black-Scholes or any sort of complex financial theory. I won't go into that sort of detail. Yeah. But CFA is very well respected. Yeah. Okay. And Kundan is saying, in the last webcast, you said about your management consulting course. So when were you planning to launch it? I'd be happy to buy it. No, thank you. Yeah. I remember that question too. Yeah. So I had a management consulting course on Udemy, which I took down years ago because the ratings weren't that great. And I didn't really know how to make a course at that time. I still barely do now. So it's coming. It's coming. Yeah. Thank you. But if you join my MBA degree program, and you can sign up for the silver version today, just go to my website, harouneducation.com. You can get started right away on learning a lot of management consulting frameworks that we talk about in the program. Thanks. Okay, and Manas is writing, Dear Sir, call me Chris, please. Hope you are good, likewise. You wrote, how is the condition in your region? So it's getting less bad is one way to put it, but it's still not great. My kids are still not going to go back to school, which is state mandated. They go to public schools until September. But they've all got Chromebooks. Thank God for Google, man. Google's such a great company. They've all got Chromebooks that they're using now. And so they're taking lessons online from their teachers. And I walked into my son Dylan's room actually yesterday, and he was doing yoga. His teacher made them do yoga. It was the cutest thing. Yeah. So I'll show you the setup that they have. I don't know if you can see that there. Yeah. So so the way it works is that's the Chromebook, and that's his teacher, and on the side are the students, and obviously you can't see who they are and stuff. That's a chair we made together back in 2015. Yeah. But so, yeah, they're learning from home. They're happy. They're healthy. Thank goodness. And actually they've started to go out on bike rides with their friends. I allow them to do it as long as they're at least 6 feet apart when they're riding. And so usually what happens is one kid will ride on one side of the road and the sidewalk and vice versa. Yeah. But things are getting less bad. Like I even notice when I go out for walks, and I go for a walk every day I have a special thing that holds my laptop so I can work while I'm walking. It's my baby Bjorn for laptops, I guess. But I find that people come a lot closer to me now, like within 10 feet. Before it was like people were saying like 20 feet away, whatever. And there's a bunch of like stores are starting to open here, not malls yet, but we're in phase 2 right now, which means that a bunch of retail stores are opening, restaurants, etc. But it's different here in Northern California where I live. San Francisco hasn't been as adversely impacted as Southern California. And of course, in Southern California, you have Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, the lockdown is in effect, I think, until July now. Here, we're slowly phasing out of it. Slowly but surely. Yeah. But also because we're probably not as populated as Los Angeles is, or New York City for that matter. You know, I would imagine very big cities will probably be the last ones to open up for business. Yeah. And that might be one of the reasons why in middle America, where you don't have massive concentration of people living in one place, why you're getting a lot of governors pushing back and saying, this is ridiculous, let's go back to work. And people are rebelling in places like Michigan, et cetera. Yeah. All right. Next question is, hello, Chris. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin halving? Yeah. So I will never tell you what cryptocurrencies to buy. But if you want, take my complete cryptocurrency course. I have 49 steps on how to analyze any cryptocurrency. I feel like my job is to teach you how to fish and not to give you a fish. But I will tell you what I own and have owned for years, and I will never sell. And I'm not telling you to buy these, but I'm just telling you what I own. I own Bitcoin. I own Litecoin. Litecoin is like Bitcoin's little brother or little sister. It's meant for smaller transactions. LTC is the ticker. I own Ether, ETH, which is the cryptocurrency for the Ethereum platform, which is so much more than a platform, or than a crypto. It's a platform as well. I also own Ripple. XRP is the ticker. And the founder Ripple doesn't live too far away from me here. But those are the 4 I own. I'm never selling. Yeah. Ramon is saying, hi, Kunal. I see you here every week. Kunal Jain. Yeah, and I had a buddy growing up actually named Rakesh Jain or Ricky Jain in Toronto. Good guy. He works in private equity now in New York. He's done well. Yeah. And his wife, Sejal, they're great. Yeah. All right. Next up, Omar is saying, what are your studying tips, especially as an adult with a family? Yeah. So what I do is I have a Bose noise canceling headset. It's one of the older models. I was looking at buying the Bose 700 last night. I looked into it. It's not materially better than the older model, so I decided not to. But I have noise canceling headset. And what I also do is if it's crazy loud, I'll even put my little orange earplugs inside my ears, and then put my Bose headset over top of it, and then I can really focus. And sometimes I'll do it actually, like sometimes I'll work, because when you run your own company and you work from home, it gets lonely sometimes. So what I'll do is, like this room here that we're in, I don't write any of my content in here, because I spend so much time in here teaching my MBA degree students live on Mondays and Tuesdays and doing this on Thursdays. But what I'll do is I'll take my laptop and I'll go upstairs and I'll wear my Bose headset and put earplugs in too if necessary. And I'll be in the living room close to the TV and the couch. We have an open concept house, because then I'll kind of be around the kids. And they're loud and stuff, but it doesn't matter because I have my headset on. And I feel a little bit less lonely when I do that. Yeah. But I recommend noise canceling headset as well. Yeah. Yeah. All right. And also when it comes to studying, like I remember when I used to study, I would do it first thing in the morning because your mind is fresh. And I always found that 1 hour of studying in the morning is better than 10 hours at night. So if people are studying for a CFA exam or whatever it might be, do it like get up an hour earlier or half an hour earlier, do it first thing in the morning because you're fresh. However, if I actually end up, if I have a lot of work, what I do is I realize that I can't really be productive during the evenings. So what I do, and I do this every day pretty much, is at 4 o'clock, I'll go into my garage and I have a cheap used elliptical trainer, and I'll put my iPad there or my laptop and I'll do work that way. And it's great because an elliptical trainer, it's like cross-country skiing. So you get to kind of work every single muscle group. And the great thing about working while you're exercising, is that you release endorphins and serotonin, and it helps you to absorb a lot more information. Like I feel like around 4 o'clock when I use my elliptical trainer, and I've been doing this for decades now. I used to be at Equinox in New York and then 24 Hour Fitness here, my club. But I find that I can absorb a hell of a lot more when I'm exercising. And it really feels like I just woke up. Your brain's a muscle as well. And just like working out any muscle, they need a lot of oxygen. And so I feel like a Hoover vacuum when I'm exercising and doing work. I can absorb anything. It's great. But because I'm so busy, I multitask a lot as well. And I'll show you what I use here in the office. So I use this. This is a desk cycle, and it works really well, actually. And it's made by a company, I'm not sponsored, as you know, called 3D Innovations. So desk cycle by 3D Innovations. You can make it tighter if you want, and you can monitor it too with a little LCD screen. I don't use the LCD screen. And I cycle with this thing under my desk. And a lot of times when I'm teaching my MBA degree students, if I'm just doing Q&A and stuff, we're just chit-chatting, I'll do this under the table and nobody really knows. Yeah, so I use this. I also have, I bought one of those machines you can walk on without the rails. And so this here, my desk, this is a Jarvis desk, Jarvis. And it's made by a company called Fully, F-U-L-Y. And this thing, and I bought it for all my employees as well, for their houses. This thing will go up and down, and I actually walk on the walker I put under here as well, because motion creates emotion, and you can be more creative that way as well. Let me just put this back here. Yeah. But we're all kind of a product of our environment. Like I really do believe that if you change your environment, you can change your attitude. And so environment-wise, like if you're having problems concentrating, if you can, go to the place in your life where you studied years ago and you were incredibly creative and in that zone. Like when libraries open up again, maybe it was down in the basement in the stacks in a library. You isolated yourself and you studied exceptionally well and enjoyed studying as well and did well on a test or whatever it was. Go there. And sometimes all you have to do is just change your environment. Like I go here to Millbrae which is not that far away from where I live, I go to the library there just to get out of the house sometimes. And I'll bring my laptop, work from there. And I'll work from Starbucks sometimes as well, just to change the scene a bit, or from Panera Bread, because they have free Wi-Fi there. But I'll change the scene a lot, the environment, just to mix it up. Otherwise, it gets boring, you know. Other things I do is I spoil myself with good coffee. I love coffee. I don't drink, so it's one of my vices. What else do I do? Oh, classical music as well. I'll never listen to music when I'm working that has words in it, but I'll listen to classical music. Or when they're singing, it's different languages. Like Enya, she sings in Gaelic. She has a gorgeous voice. But I'll listen to a lot of Chopin, or yeah, Chopin's great. His nocturnes, while I work. I love it. I love it. Or I'll listen to soundtracks. My favorite things actually are like when I go to a movie and I'm really, really inspired. I'm that guy that buys the soundtrack. So I remember in '96 with my mom and my sister Katie, we went to a movie called Contact with Jodie Foster. That was back in Mississauga in '96. And I was so incredibly inspired by how passionate Jodie Foster was in that movie. And it was a great movie too. And so I bought the soundtrack by Alan Silvestri. I listened to that. Or I listen to anything Randy Newman used to do. I listen to the Natural soundtrack. My favorite soundtrack right now is the soundtrack for the motion picture Interstellar by Hans Zimmer. If anybody here is from Germany on this call, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for Hans Zimmer. So Hans Zimmer, Interstellar, like when I listen to that soundtrack, I'm in a zone. And I listen to a lot of Vangelis as well. You know, not Chariots of Fire, but I listen to his the first Blade Runner soundtrack he made, which is great. And I feel like I'm in a zone, like when I watch those movies. And it makes it more enjoyable for me to work because a lot of times I'm inspired by the music anyway. So, and you can listen to a lot of these soundtracks online on Spotify, various services, whatever. But just look up any music that was written by Hans Zimmer just to get started. Like Gladiator as well. It's amazing. Like the motion pictures. Oh my God, it's incredible. Incredible. Yeah. And that really helps me out a lot. And sometimes it's all about lighting. You know, like sometimes we get depressed when we're working because we don't have enough light around. And so what I'll do sometimes is I'll open this up just to get more sunlight. You know, it's vitamin D, and we all need it to survive. And I think a lot of people that work in offices where there's not much sunlight, they can get really depressed. And so you have to get outside every now and then and get some vitamin D. You know, if you're worried about sun aging, whatever, just put on SPF and all that stuff, whatever. But we need it to survive. So sometimes I'll put on some more light in the room, you know, if I can. Just puts me in a better mood. Kind of like, it reminds me of my mom. When I used to watch TV as a kid, she'd always turn the lights on. Yeah. All right, let me just shut this. Because this will mess up the lighting for the camera. Yeah. But we're all a product of our environments. Change your environment, you can change your thoughts. Or as Jim Rohn said, you know, you're not a tree, you can move. All right. And then Kundan is saying, according to you, how is Accenture different from MBB? I don't know what MBB is. I'm sorry. Let me know what Accenture or what MBB means, and I'm happy to answer it. Yeah, thank you. And Manas is saying, how do you print your signature in your email? Yeah, print your signature. I mean, what I do for when I do have to send signatures of stuff is I'll actually just have a color copy of it. I'll show you actually. Let's do this. Why not? So I'll show you from my MBA degree program. I did this actually for the silver version of the students. So let me go to Haroun workbooks, or is it MBA workbooks? Hold on a second. MBA. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So what I did here, I'll show you here. So I have 3 versions of all my workbooks. I'll show you the Word version. Actually, I'll go here, Google Docs version. So let me see here. It's coming. Oh, I guess I took it out of here. I think I have it in the Word version though. Problem with Google Docs is you can't always throw images in. So it's loading. Give it a second here. Thank you. Here it is here. Yeah. So what I do is you just I actually just take a picture of it, and then what I do is I insert the picture, and then I go to shape format, and then I remove the background as well. I've already removed the background on this, but you can always click it and then just remove the background, right? So it's actually a white background, or it looks a little bit whitish like this. If you're using Photoshop, you want to export, or any application that makes images, what you want to do is you want to export it as a PNG, because PNG is a format where it's transparent, right? So if there's white on the sides of an image, that won't appear. It'll be fully transparent. Yeah, that's how we do it. Yeah. So take a picture of your signature on a white piece of paper, okay? And then what you want to do is just import that from your iPhone or Android handset into Word or whatever application you're using, and then just remove the backgrounds. Yeah. Next question is from Mohammed, who's saying, I have an idea to found an investment firm in the Middle East. Where should I start? Yeah. So I've done a lot of work actually in the Middle East, in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And I actually had a lot of my investors over there. It comes down to networking. And for years, I never kind of leveraged my Arab roots ever. My dad's Egyptian. I'm proud to be Egyptian. My mom's half Lebanese. I'm proud to be a quarter Lebanese. And the other quarter is English, Scottish, French, bunch of I'm a Canadian, okay? I'm greatest hits. I'm a mutt, but a happy mutt. But just kidding. But what I did actually is I leveraged my last name. And that's how I got a bunch of meetings. And I went to Dubai and networked there. And actually I got a lot of great investors there as well in my companies. But the best tips I can provide you with are free in this book. So go to my website, harounventures.com, and download this book on networking. And I promise it'll help you a lot, especially if you're in the Middle East and you want to start a company. It's all about, like, relationships are more important than product knowledge in every culture. But especially, I think I found more so in the Middle East. Yeah. Just my humble thoughts. Yeah. And don't ever raise money, though, please, without getting a lawyer first to do all the investment memorandum documentation, just to protect yourself and your family, more importantly, and make sure you register your company as well, so that if things don't go bad, you don't get sued and all that stuff. Yeah. Next question is, hi, Chris, what skills should we have for future jobs? Yeah. So I would just ask yourself, in 5 years, which companies or products or industries are going to be more relevant or less relevant than they are today? That's what I would think. And so I think that most companies 5 years from now are going to be using more artificial intelligence-based algorithms, to supplement the job they do or the service or product they offer. And so make sure you enjoy this stuff first, though. But what I recommend is you can go to Udemy and take courses by this guy, Kirill, and learn about business analytics, or maybe just learn how to use simplistic business dashboarding software products like Tableau, which was recently bought by Salesforce. And what you can do to get started with business analytics in general, if you don't want to go and get that software product or learn it, is you can actually just start to use Excel. And just play around with pivot tables and data analysis and see if you get hooked and if you enjoy it. And if you do enjoy it, then from an AI perspective, you can look into programming as well. And if you want to learn programming, I don't care how young or old you are, it's really easy and really fun. What I want you to do is I want you to go to Udemy website, and I don't get comp for saying that. Udemy is an algorithm anyway, right? So you go here to Udemy and take courses by Angela Yu. So Udemy, Angela Yu. She's great. I met her. She's got a great life story. So she's a doctor in England. I met her in Berlin last year. She's wonderful. She's really tall too. She's amazing. She's larger than life. She's great. Great personality. And so Dr. Angela Yu, she was a doctor in England, and her passion was actually teaching. And so she quit being a doctor. And she actually created this company called the App Brewery, and she teaches how to code. And her courses are unbelievable. Like it's insane, like how long they are and the value you get. It's great. She's awesome. Anybody can do this. Doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. If you have no program experience, she makes it really, really fun to make apps or to make websites, etc. So I would start there. If you want to learn about hardcore coding, after you take her courses, then I would look at Rob Percival, who's a great guy, Cambridge man. I went to go visit him actually. Spent a day with him a couple of years ago. And he mentored me and helped me out a lot. Good dude, good dude. Yeah, he was a teacher. He's a math teacher, kind of like Sting was, or high school teacher, whatever. He went to Cambridge and he decided he just wants to teach online. And he does great. So you can take courses here on how to use, I don't know, Swift. I think he has a Python one somewhere as well. He's got everything. Ruby on Rails. Here's Python here as well. Yeah, he's great. He's a good dude. Good dude. Yeah, he's a machine. Yeah. So that's what I recommend. Okay. And then Kunan is saying, what's the work culture and pay scale at Accenture and your overall view on Accenture? Yeah. So it was different for me because I when I worked there, I started out in 1994 in the Ottawa, Canada office and then moved to Toronto. But I got paid $19,000 US a year at that point. And that was a lot of money. I feel like an old man now. I lived in Ottawa in a place called Sandy Hill there, and $19,000 a year was enough for me to go on vacation and, payments on my car and rent and stuff. But one thing that pissed me off is that in the States, the employees at Accenture made way more. And I understand that if you work in New York City, you should get paid more because it costs more money to live there. I get it. But one thing that bothers me about corporate America is sometimes I feel like I feel like American companies sometimes view Canada as kind of a place to test out new corporate structures. And if it works there, then they deploy it, company-wide in America. But what I find that is in Canada, and I never understood this, and it still really bugs me till this day. I remember when the Canadian dollar was at par with the US dollar. It was $1 for Canadian dollar versus $1 for the US dollar. It was at par years ago. And I remember looking on the inside of hardcover books, and there was always the American price and the Canadian price. And the Canadian price was much, much higher. Even at par, I didn't understand it. And when I go to Canada now, things cost more money. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Maybe there's less competition. I don't know. So when I worked at Accenture, they tried out a bunch of new. They changed everybody's title when I was in Canada, and they kind of experimented there, and then they adopted it company-wide. It worked out well, actually. It's a good company, and I have a lot of respect for George Shaheen, who was the CEO at the time, a fellow Lebanese, and he went on to work at Siebel and sell it to Oracle on September 9th, 2005. I remember that deal well. But I find that we got paid way too little in Canada, and that bugs me. And hopefully that's not the case anymore. Yeah. But I found that it was a great place to start a career. And the reason I say start a career is because I don't want you to, don't work in consulting when you have kids, if you can. Because what happens is it's like the army. If there's a war, you go to fight the war on enemy turf or wherever it is. And the enemy is the customer, not really an enemy, but you'll be sent out of town a lot to work. And it's tough because you don't get to see your kids that much. But I think consulting is a great way to start a career before you have kids. Just because you'll get exposed to a lot of different industries and client sites, and you'll kind of understand how business and business processes work. And when I worked at Accenture initially in Ottawa, a lot of the people I worked for were ex-Canadian military, which was awesome because I learned about business processes and structure, which is great. And my first boss at Accenture actually had a prophetic impact on my career. And I am who I am today because of him. His name is Murray Chronic. And he had a lot of faith in me and really boosted my confidence as well. He's a great manager. I think that good managers and good parents, the most important thing you can teach your children or your subordinates is confidence. But I learned a lot at Accenture. But it was hard, though. It was long hours. It's a work hard, play hard mentality. And so what happens is when you join Accenture, they send you to the corporate headquarters in St. Charles, Illinois, which is like an hour and a half away from Chicago. And you go to St. Charles and you go to the corporate headquarters there, and they teach you how to code, and they work you hard, man. I remember, and I'm really dating myself, it was 94. And it was right before they started Accent on C, like for C program. I did COBOL. And it was 3 weeks of hell, man. But we partied hard as well. Work hard, play hard mentality. And I learned a ton about business, having worked at Accenture. But one thing I did learn also is if you want to have a family, that's not the best place for you to be, meaning consulting industry in general. Yeah. Yeah. And Menas wrote, I'll definitely make a course and you're my idol. Oh, thank you. Oh, God bless you. I appreciate that. But Menas, if you're going to make a course, just make sure to please, I've made so many mistakes, dude. Like take a look at, like go to Udemy's website, go to my profile page on Udemy, and you can take my courses on, there's one called 40 Tips on How to Make a Great Online Course. And there's another course called Another 40 Tips on How to Make a Great Online Course. And they're based on 40 mistakes that I've made, or 80 in total. Teaching online. I've made every mistake. As Murray Chronic, my first manager at Accenture, told me, you got to work smarter, not harder. So I think a way to work smarter and not harder is to take my courses to find out my 80 failures teaching online. So you can work smarter and not harder. Yeah. And the course, actually, the first one, the 40 Tips course, I paid, it's free, of course. They're all free. I paid to have it translated into 10 different languages. So there's 10 different language versions on Udemy of that course as well. Because I humbly do believe that education fixes every problem in the world, and we're all in this together. Yeah. Thank you for your nice comments. Okay, next question is Saud is saying, based on your knowledge and experience, what key variables should one factor in to reflect COVID impact on financial models? Yeah. So the precedent that I started using when I was making my models was SARS originally. And of course, it's much more extreme than SARS. And I remember back, I had just left Goldman to join the first hedge fund I worked at in New York. And I remember it was I think it was Q2 of 2003, when I was reading the quarterly financial statements, the 10Qs from sec.gov. A risk that everybody had started listing was SARS. And what I did at that time was, in Microsoft Word, what you can do is you can take two different documents and do auto compare. And there'll be blue words for what's new and red crossed out for what's taken out. And so I would do an auto compare of the previous year's 10Q and the current 10Q for the second quarter 2003 and see what the changes are. And I know, and obviously the numbers are all different. You don't look at the numbers, you just look at the qualitative stuff like risks. And so I saw the language had changed a lot in that new risks were added. Like we are somewhat worried about SARS. And the next quarter, we are very worried about SARS. And so when it came to COVID initially, I was looking at the impact that SARS had. And it was devastating. I remember to Toronto at the time. I worked at Goldman Sachs. Actually, I was at Goldman first, and then I went to Kingdon Capital in New York on May 6th, which is a Monday, 2003. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Andrew was born a year later. My 16-year-old here in the blue shirt. Yeah. But I remember the director of research at Goldman called me when I worked at Goldman, and he said, because I was senior when it came to Canada there, or whatever, he said, I don't want any analysts from New York or any to be sent to Canada, to Toronto specifically because of SARS. And so the impact was devastating. Not nearly as bad as it is right now, because we kind of figured out how to solve the SARS issue, sort of. So I would kind of look at SARS initially, but then think 10 times worse, obviously. And there's really no precedent for this, like economically speaking, like your parents, like my parents, they've never seen anything like this in their lives. And so there's no precedent from an economics perspective for modeling GDP or revenue growth or contraction. So you can go back to the Spanish flu, but that was before we had financial models, kind of. So I would kind of, and I look at an index called the VIX, VIX, which is it's a derivative instrument that measures volatility offered by the CBOE, Chicago Board of Exchange. And the VIX is the fear index, and the VIX, that's the ticker, is it was higher earlier this year than it was at any point in 01 after 9/11, and at any point in 08 when we were within 24 hours of bank machines not working. So there really is no historical precedent on how to model this. I would basically look at whatever GDP contraction is year over year. I would assume that it's 2x bigger contraction-wise for most companies, at least, because governments have stimulus programs, fiscal policy, monetary policy to jumpstart the economy. Monetary policy is cutting interest rates, and fiscal policy is stimulus programs, everything else. Individual companies don't have their own monetary policy, et cetera. So I would think that the year-over-year decline in revenue for a lot of companies is much more extreme than it is for GDP. So maybe I would start with looking at 2x worse. And of course, lots of industries are going to be hit much harder than others, like the airline industry. Much, much worse. You have to use common sense, obviously, as well. And other companies are going to benefit tremendously, like Netflix, as well as online education companies and I do feel guilty about the revenue pickup. And that's why I gave away 1 million free courses in March. And I hired a couple more people to help out with Q&A, and my ratings went down because of I don't care. I want to help. And other companies will be doing much better, like Zoom, obviously. Yeah. So, and companies like Campbell's Soup should be doing better as well because it's a counter-cyclical stock. It's defensive. It has a dividend yield. And also, people are buying more canned goods. We certainly stocked up here a couple months ago just in case. Yeah. Next question is Vipul saying, good morning, Chris. Hope you and your family are safe. Likewise. Thank you. Manas wrote, can you tell me about your time in Sequoia? Yeah. So I never worked at Sequoia, but I was on the board of a company where Sequoia they did the A round and my company did the B rounds. And that company is called Cohesity. And there's a brilliant founder named Mohit Aaron. And that company's done exceptionally well. But I did so I was there in a couple of board meetings. I can't disclose what happened. But I did go there and spend time with some senior executives there. And I remember asking, what kind of people do you hire? And what are your thoughts on good people to invest in? And it was Doug Leone, actually, who I met with. I met with him an hour and a half one-on-one. That guy's a rock star, too. How did I get the meeting? Because I asked. Anybody can get a meeting with anybody if they ask. Just watch that Steve Jobs video. Do a search, Steve Jobs Ask in YouTube, and you'll see. In terms of meeting with Doug Leone, I asked him, I said, what kind of people do you invest in? And I'm going to paraphrase what he said, but it was fascinating. And I respect him tremendously because Sequoia, 5% of their investments become unicorns, meaning billion-dollar companies. Compare and contrast that with the other top 10 venture capital firms in the world, only 1% of their investments become unicorns. And so I asked Doug, and what Sequoia does is very smart. They understand that you have to invest in a great management team first and a business model second. And so if you go to their website, sequoiacap.com, they change it every now and then, but they don't really profile companies. They profile the faces of the people that founded those companies. You got to invest in founders, which is why Peter Thiel's fund is called Founders Fund. But I asked Doug, I said, what kind of people do you invest in? And again, I'm going to paraphrase this, but he said, a lot of times we invest in people that might have had something happen to them earlier in their lives that makes them think that they're not as good as other people. And because of that, there's a chip on their shoulder, maybe, that motivates them to not do it for the money, right? Because people that are motivated just by money, a lot of times they start a company and they'll sell it for a couple $1,000,000. He looks for people that want to make a dent in the universe, like obviously Steve Jobs did. And Sequoia invested in Apple years ago. People that want to make the world a better place, but have insanely high aspirations and motivations to materially disrupt an industry to the extent that they don't want to sell their companies, even for $100 billion. So those are the type of people they like to invest in. And so in terms of what might have happened with entrepreneurs that make them believe that they're not good enough, I'll give a couple examples, loosely examples that may or may not have credence. So Steve Jobs was adopted, and being adopted is a beautiful thing. It is. It's wonderful. But he kind of, I think, and I read the Walter Isaacson book by him. Great read. You should read it. I think he kind of wanted to, there's parental issues there, yeah. The chip on his shoulder. Also, in a good way. Also, if you look at Elon Musk, the poor guy had the crap kicked out of him in South Africa growing up there. And so for him, it's not about the money, man. It's about proving the world wrong. Right? And I admire his optimism. And so a lot of people that became very successful, it's something happened to them earlier in their lives that makes them want to prove the rest of the world wrong. And like Roberto Benigni, I remember when he got the Academy Award for Life is Beautiful. I remember he got up there on the stage, and it was from 1999 at the Oscars. Watch his speech. It was amazing. Oh my God. Put so much joy in your heart. He got up there and he said, "I want to make love to everybody." It was out there. It was funny. But he thanked his parents for the gift of poverty. And so, he wanted to prove the world wrong as well. And so sometimes investing in people who have a chip on their shoulder is a great thing. And I'd always rather invest in a management team with a B business model instead of investing in a B management team with an A business model. It's all about people, all about investing in the right people. The jockey is more important than the horse. And unfortunately, business schools don't teach you that. They teach you how to analyze business models, but that's a waste of time if you don't have the right manager. Okay, and then Kundan is saying, according to you, what are the necessary technical and hard skills needed for management consulting? Yeah. So I would say data analysis. Like, a lot of people don't realize that a lot of what McKinsey does, or the other consulting firms, is crunching numbers. And a lot of these firms, they use software products that are very analytical. Like, I used to be an investor in this company, Quid, Quid. And they sell these 3D neural networking ways to analyze information. And their biggest customers are the biggest consulting firms you've heard of. And so being able to quantify, how to look at large sets of data and find patterns is important. It's important, yeah. Because people think that there's just qualitative skills you need to know for consulting firms, like use the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, or the BCG matrix, Boston Consulting Group matrix, if it comes to product positioning. But there's a lot of quantitative stuff that goes into it as well. Yeah. So I would learn data analysis skills. Like, maybe you can get a free version of Quid software. Go to quid.com. Yeah. And the same thing with maybe play around with Tableau, which was bought by Salesforce. Or you can use an IBM data analytics product, which used to be a great company in Ottawa called Cognos. Or you can use Hyperion software, which Oracle bought here in the Bay Area. Or you can use Business Objects, which is a French company. You can use their products as well, which was bought by SAP. And geography has a lot to do with why M&A takes place. That's why that whole sector, when it got consolidated, IBM's headquarters are on the East Coast. And that's where Cognos is too, in Ottawa. IBM bought Cognos. Hyperion, their headquarters are here in the Bay Area. So are Oracle's. Oracle bought Hyperion. Business Objects, their headquarters are in Europe, in France. Not that far away from Waldorf, Germany, which is a 2-hour drive from Frankfurt. So SAP bought Business Objects. So I would just look at those aforementioned companies' data analytics processes, or products, I should say. See if you can get a trial version of it, or a freemium version of that product, because I think that will really help you when it comes to being successful in the consulting industry. The bottom line is you have to learn how to analyze patterns in big data sets. And Himanshu's lifting up his hand saying, "Hello, Chris. I like your icon there. Thank you. Hope you're doing great." And there's a guy actually at, I mentioned this before, I think, at Accenture. I mentored him. His name was Himanshu as well. He grew up in Russia. He's from India originally, but he grew up in Russia, and he did great at Accenture. Good guy. Next up is Manasseh saying, "Why don't you go live on Instagram?" I'm thinking about it because, like, I believe in this whole write once, read many mentality, especially when it comes to content and repurposing content. And so let me show you here in Wirecast what you can do. So within Wirecast, you can actually stream to multiple platforms at the same time. Okay, I'm not going to do it now, but I want to show you. Okay, so if I were to go here, go to add, I could actually stream to multiple places. And so let me start at the top here. So Azure Media Services, that's kind of Microsoft. Azure, that's their version of AWS kind of. There's Acumen, which is a content delivery network or CDN company, where you can it allows you to view information online faster in different places because of caching. Then there's Facebook Live. I've thought about I might do it. There's LinkedIn Live. So LinkedIn, you have to be invited. And I've tried, and I can't. They haven't accepted me into the beta program, whatever it is. It seems like it's like Gmail used to be. It was in beta for 8 million years. So I might do that soon. Then there's Twitch, and I thought about Twitch. Like my son Matthew, my child all the way on the left, my middle child. So he's actually doing well. He's making over $100 a day just streaming Clash of Clans. It's crazy on Twitch. It's funny. Periscope, which nobody knows about anymore. I might do that. Once they add Instagram here, and maybe Facebook will do it next, they certainly have the technology to do it since they're the parent company of Instagram, then I'll start to do it. But the way it works with this software is it doesn't matter. Like, it won't slow down my system. It's like a worm mentality, WORM, write once, read many. So it can be done, and I'll do it soon. Yeah. Thank you, though. All right. And I love doing these calls because I get more in touch with my customers, my students who inspire me so much. And I get real-time feedback as well, which kind of helps me, build my business in terms of what channels to look at. So Instagram, we started repurposing my content for Instagram as well. So if you want, subscribe to my Instagram account. We do videos just 3 times a week for now, of 1 minute each. Yeah, but we will do Instagram Live once it's offered here over Wirecast. And for those of you that don't want to pay for Wirecast software, which is what I'm using, you can actually just use OBS, which is similar but free. And OBS stands for Open Broadcasting Software. All right, we got about a half hour left. And by the way, if I don't answer your questions, just copy them and ask them next week. Or if you're one of my MBA degree students, we have MBA office hours from 11:15 to 1:15 today. And then I've got a bunch of one-on-ones with my MBA degree students. And for those of you interested in learning more about my MBA degree program, just go to my website, harouneducation.com. Thank you. All right. Next up is Saud, who's saying, what are the best books on economics that you recommend for financial analysts? Yeah. I don't think there is one. I don't think there is one. Because they're too theoretical. They teach you about supply and demand stuff. Take my complete financial analyst course, because I teach you about leveraging data and economic data points from the World Bank, as well as the IMF, International Monetary Fund, and much, much more. That's what I recommend. Yeah. But I think the best way to learn economics, if you want to read something, is to go to the Financial Times. And I'm going to show you how to do this for free. There's a reason why I'm not sponsored by the Financial Times. I don't care. I put my students first, and money second. Okay. So whenever you go to a newspaper, let me make sure this is right here. Yeah. Whenever you go to an online newspaper, it works for some of these websites where I'm going to teach you. But if you have to pay for something, then what I want you to do is do what I'm showing you. Okay. But when you go to these websites, I don't want you to read anything that it tells you what stocks to buy. Okay. I just want you to read things that tell you how the world works. Meaning economic stuff. Okay. So, for example, U.S. jobless claims. That's important, right? That's a big economic data point. Watch what happens when I click on this. It says, whoa, you have to pay for it. Heck no. What I want you to do is this. I want you to copy the title here, okay? Like this. Then I want you to go to Google or Bing if you work at Microsoft. And then I want you to just go search and click on it, and boom, now you can read it for free. Okay. And the reason why this happens is because if it did not, if the FT didn't allow this to happen, then their articles wouldn't be indexed or searchable by Google, right? So anyway, but I recommend just reading that. Look at that. Jeez Louise, this is nutty, man. Look at this. Over 36 million workers, God bless people, have lost their jobs in the past 2 months. Look at this. Look at this chart. This is when they first started collecting data for it from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, BLS.gov. Look at this right here. Boom. So sad. Yeah. but they're saying that the growth in unemployment is slowing. It's getting less bad, so to speak. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I recommend doing for learning about economics. I don't think there's a textbook you should read because I think they're all kind of boring, to be honest, and they're too theoretical, right? Like, I mean, anybody that has an MBA that learned about supply and demand graphs, you've never used those in the real world. You've never used that unless you're an economist, I guess. All right. Next question is from Kundan, who's saying, sir, call me Chris, please. What's your view on the latest podcast of David Icke and Brian Rose from London Real? I don't know them. Sorry. I have no idea who they are. Sorry. Next up is Amin, who's saying, Chris, I live in Germany. Awesome. Since I want to start my software business here, how do I cover the law aspects without paying so much to hire a lawyer? Services are very expensive here. Yeah, I don't know. But what I do know is that I've actually used international lawyers from LegalZoom.com. There's got to be a website like this in Germany. There has to be, right? LegalZoom.com. And I actually use LegalZoom to talk to international lawyers for intellectual property several years ago when I was copywriting and trademarking all of my content online so nobody can copy it, or if they do, there's a cease and desist that we issue. But the issue we had was, and I talked to a lot of international lawyers through this service, that we were able to trademark and copyright in most places in the world except for the United Kingdom because of Brexit. There was just no legal precedent at that time. But I would look into LegalZoom, and there's got to be a LegalZoom in Germany. German version of LegalZoom. Let's see. Here's one here. And I can't speak for them, because I don't know if this is good or not, but legalbase.de or Deutschland for Germany. So it looks like there is a platform there. Legalbase.de. Let's go there. Legalbase.de. Yeah. So you can check this out if you want to. Again, I can't talk for how great they are, but it looks like this is similar to let me see if I can translate in English here. This is similar to LegalZoom, but for Germany. So check it out first. Yeah. Looks like they have a bunch of Reuters, which is a very well respected media organization, as a client. Whatever. Yeah. So I would check that out. But again, I don't have any experience with that. Yeah. And for anybody overseas, what you can do is type in the name of your country, and then version of LegalZoom. So Canada, you can type in Canadian version of LegalZoom, that sort of thing. Okay. All right, John. John is saying, what are the best side gigs? Selling on Shopify through AliExpress? Question mark. Yeah. So I've done that. I've actually used AliExpress a lot, and my kids and I did it for a couple of years. We would buy cheap stuff from AliExpress.com, which is an Alibaba subsidiary, and then we'd sell it for much more over eBay. And there was a great arbitrage opportunity there. So you can try that if you want. In terms of the best side gigs, I think teaching online, to be honest. I think everybody can teach. Everybody's got something to teach. Everybody. And people don't realize this, but Ninja, who makes millions streaming Fortnite per year, and he just went recently, I think, $100 million contract with Microsoft exclusive, not Twitch anymore. But he used to teach on Udemy how to use Twitch. And there's so many people that teach things that you wouldn't think you could teach, but they make a great living off of it. Like Teresa Greenway teaches how to bake bread. And I've talked about her a lot before, but I do think the best side gig is teaching online. And, I want to humbly help you do it as well, because I think that every problem in the world can be solved with education and technology and acceptance as well, which is the crux of my TEDx talk. But you can go to Udemy, do a search on my name on Udemy, and there's a bunch of free courses that I provide you with on how to teach online. We're all in this together. And Pranav is saying, how do you set up informational meetings in this lockdown period? You can ask for, read my book, my networking book. It's free download on Amazon, or pardon me, on my website. Don't buy it on Amazon, please. Just go to my website, get it for free. But you can use the methodologies that I teach and set up virtual networking meetings. And Jose, one of my great students, he's from Brooklyn, in my MBA degree program, he's done that a lot and been very successful with it. You can use the same methodology I teach in my networking book, and you can set up informational meetings using Zoom. Yeah. And I think it's actually better because not many people are doing it, which means there's not much competition for you. Aerofay is asking, hey, Chris, hey, man. When you say that someone should do something that they can learn, can't travel, could you please give an example? Yeah. Okay. And that's with respect to earlier on, I mentioned the way to find your passion is think about if you're not allowed to travel, you can't go to school and you can't work. What do you do with your time? Whatever it is, that's your passion. And if you give me examples, I'll humbly let you know how I think you might be able to turn that into a career. Yeah. And Manas wrote, I'm focused on writing my book through your templates. Thanks for that. And you put a lot of icon. Thank you. God bless you more. Thank you. And what Manas is referring to is if you go to my website, harouneducation.com/writebook, all lowercase, writebook, there's a template that you can use, which is a template I created. It's Microsoft. If you know how to use Microsoft Word in a browser, you can write a book. And it's the template I use to write all of my books. It's 6x9, and the instructions are on page 1. You don't have to enter your email address. I'm not asking for any money. I just want you all to write books because I want you to walk into interviews or apply to schools. And when you're interviewing for schools or jobs, whatever it is, I want you to bring your book and give it to them. Who does that? How badly do you want that job? Yeah. All right. Or even if you meet with customers, you can give them a book you made. Yeah. And I have a ton of my students that made books. I bought a lot of them. I think I put them in storage. I just cleaned up this room here. Before I was embarrassed to show you the floor. Now I can show you the floor. And actually behind that there, it's clean as well. Actually, let me give you guys a tour of this here. Let me first of all zoom out a bit. Whoopsies. Zoom out. Yeah. So let me just turn it myself. Sorry for the shakiness there. But that's what I view right there. So that's actually, that's my laptop hooked up down there. And then I've got computers hidden behind there. That's the screen I look at. I look at one screen there. And over there, this is my other cameras. That's my slider. It's tough to see on that red thing there. And then over here is just everything else. And up on the ceiling, I've got everything is drilled in the ceiling, like these bars. And these little studs we put in, each one can hold hundreds of pounds. And I hang all that stuff in there. And those are special foam panels to absorb just any echoes. That's why the sound quality here is good. Yeah. But let me just turn this around. Hold on a second. And go back to normal or abnormal mode, whatever. I got my pedals down here as well. And I started playing around with this. I mentioned before these DJ lights here. So always trying to push the goalposts out and create if I possibly can. Yeah. All right. Next question is it worthwhile to go into online learning where you have plenty before you, or look for a position in corporate? Let me know what you mean by that. I want to answer the question correctly. Thank you. But I think everybody has something to teach, and not many people are in the marketplace right now. And people used to think I was crazy doing what I'm doing. And I used to love it because hedge funds would call me and venture capital firms saying, "Do you want to come back? Are you done with this teaching thing?" And I love the fact they thought I was off my rocker, and now they're not thinking I'm as crazy as I once was. Although I'm a little nutty. Yeah. At first, they call you crazy, then they call you crazy genius, and then once you get a lot of success, they call you genius. I'm still in the crazy stage, though. Yeah. And Mohammed is saying, do you have mentorship programs? I do for my Platinum MBA degree program, where I offer a ton of one-on-ones, confidential one-on-ones to help you with all aspects of your business life. And to learn more about that, just go to my website. Thanks. Okay, Manas wrote, when I finish my book, I'll send you the first copy. Awesome, thank you, and I'll profile here. Actually, no, you can't send it. You have to tell me and I'll buy it, because I have a policy that I buy all my students' books. Yeah. And Rohit in the house, great to have you. I miss you, man. I miss you. Thank you for responding to my email. Rohit's one of my amazing MBA degree students. And he's the reason why we have time zone 1 at 9 a.m. when we teach classes, and time zone 2 is at 4 p.m. But he said because a lot of people in India, 9 a.m. works well for them. But I haven't heard from him in a while. I was worried about you, brother. And you wrote you're doing well. You're just busy with school and everything. And your family is safe as well, you wrote as well. So great to have you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And Kundan is saying, sir, I recently started to learn coding, and I'm really hooked on it. Awesome. It makes me feel like I am into both finance and tech. Oh, I love you are me. I worked at Accenture in the financial services department, consulting group, as a programmer. I love it. I love it. And you wrote here, so according to you, what should be an ideal career path for me? Yeah. So I would look actually at Accenture first, as long as you don't have kids. I don't want anybody to work for a consulting firm if you have kids, because you have to travel and you want to be that dad or mom that's always there for your kids. So I would look into Accenture or competitors of Accenture and join the financial services group as a techie. So I think it's great. It's great. Or what you can do is, if you don't get into Accenture or other consulting firms that are similar to Accenture, like Satyam, Infosys, Wipro, etc. They're all great. Then what you can do is you can join a big bank and work in the technology department. And then figure it out from there, and then move around in your career by networking internally. Find Yodas within the company. That way you focus on tech and finance. And those are my 2 passions as well. I love it. Yeah. Okay. And Ben is saying, what do you think the economic relationship will be like with China and America post-COVID? Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it depends on who wins the election in November. And apparently a cure for COVID might be coming this November. I think if Trump wins again, I think it'll get worse. I think if somebody else wins, which seems a bit unlikely right now, I don't know. But if somebody else wins, then it can't get any worse. It'll get better. Yeah. But I hope that there's not too much saber rattling going on. Like I had heard Yoshida-san, one of my great students in Tokyo, she told me that she heard that the Trump administration was trying to stop American government pension funds from investing in Chinese companies, which would have a pretty big impact on widely held companies by American institutional investors, like Baidu, for example. I think everybody loses if ties are severed, of course, with China. America's too big to fail, and so is China, of course. So America is reliant on China for buying our debt. Right? So if you have a mortgage and you live in America, you don't realize this, but a big part of your house is owned by the Chinese government. And China is also dependent on America because of American consumers. Like, people don't realize that the American economy is about 1/3 of the world economy, but people don't realize that about 2/3 of the American economy is consumer spending. It's not big business. And so China is really reliant on American consumers. And China has been recently trying to develop their own consumer-based economy internally, so they don't have to be as reliant on America. But that will take decades. So I think both America and China are tied at the hip. We're all in this together. And yes, there is finger pointing going on about some potential cover-ups. And yes, it's wrong to cover stuff up and not be transparent, China. But it's also wrong to start a trade war. And a thought crossed my mind. I'm not a conspiracy guy, and there's no transparency, but a thought did cross my mind not that long ago, which is, so China's biggest fear is always been social unrest. Like what happened with Tiananmen Square is the tip of the iceberg in '89. So there's a lot of protests. How quickly we forget. A lot of protests in Hong Kong. You remember that? Remember that? We all forget about it. There's no more protests in Hong Kong now. No more people in the street walking around. I feel bad saying it, but the thought did cross my mind on how the Chinese government could have stopped COVID a little bit faster, but maybe they didn't allow it to stop faster because of the protesters. So I think that China should have told the world much sooner. But sometimes they live in fear there. Like there's one of my students who's a doctor who's helping out with the whole COVID thing in China. He's in China. And he came on the webcast one week and he started telling me about stuff. And I asked him if he wanted to join us on Zoom and whatnot and tell us more. And he disappeared. It wasn't there anymore. I just think that there's a lot of pressure from the Chinese government to cover up stuff. And I believe in full transparency. So is China at fault? Yes. For not being more transparent? Yes. And part of me feels that one of the reasons they weren't completely transparent was they didn't mind if all the protesters in Hong Kong stopped protesting. So I think China's at fault for not, telling us sooner about this and divulging more information on this. We're all in this together. Yeah. And that's not a knock on the Chinese people at all, please. It's a knock on the Chinese government. And Manas said, can you please explain the process of how to get a book published through Amazon? Yeah, absolutely. So all you have to do is download, and everybody should do this. Everybody should write a book. It's free and it will help your career big time. So you can download it for free from my website, harauneducation.com/writebook, all lowercase writebook. And when you go here, what you do is you download this Microsoft Word document. And it's showing you here in Dropbox, but download it in Word. And it's basically the entire framework of a book for you. It's really, really easy. Introduction, thank you, table of contents, all that stuff. Just type your entire book and then go to the table of contents in Word, right click this and go update table. But the instructions are on page 1. Sorry for scrolling fast. Yeah. So the instructions are, if you want to get it published on Kindle, electronic version, you go here to kdp.amazon.com. If you want to get it done in paper format, you go here to create space. They recently rebranded this, but if you click here, it'll URL forward to the right place. And then if you want to get it done on audible.com, you go here to ACX. Now, if you want to get, and it's all free, the only thing that will cost you a bit of money maybe is if you copyright it. And also if you want to go to Fiverr, and get somebody to make the cover of your book. And there's this amazing woman named UltraCon22. She's from Bangladesh, and she made the covers of all my books. And it cost $5. I tipped her very generously. Please tip her if you use her. She's the best. But that's it. The instructions are on one page. It's really, really easy. If you have Microsoft Word or Google Docs, you can open that in Google Docs. If you have a browser and internet and high-speed internet, which you do, or even slow speed, doesn't matter. You can publish a book with my template. It's easy. Okay. And Kunan is saying, sir, how can I combine both tech and finance? Yeah. And so, yeah, I answered the question earlier as well about Accenture. So that's the way to do it, is to work in technology consulting in a financial services division in a big company like Accenture, if you can. And if you can't get a job at a company like Accenture, where you're in the financial services department as a coder, then you can get a job at a big bank in the tech department, and then network internally. And Jean-Luc is saying, hi, Chris. What are the best business trends now? I really like learning about emerging technologies. What are your thoughts? I'm thinking to start a 3D printing farm. Really curious about 3D printed food. Yeah. Thanks. So I actually invested in a company called Modern Meadow. You can go to modernmeadow.com. And what they do is they grow food, they grow meat, and they also grow leather. And I think the growing leather part of the business model is great as well, because if you dehydrate a cow, it's awful for the environment. It's just terrible. And it's just inhumane too. But I think that one day we're gonna, kind of like wearing a fur coat is not politically correct. It's just wrong. I think that one day wearing shoes that are leather or belt that's leather based will be politically incorrect unless it's grown in a petri dish. And so what Modern Meadow has done, and again, I used to be an investor in them, is they've learned, and one of the reasons we invested in this company years ago when I worked in venture capital is because Andras Forex and his dad, who founded Modern Meadow, they had a successful $1 billion exit. They started a company called Organovo, which printed 3D organs. Yeah. And Andras is the reason why I did a TEDx talk. He inspired me so much. Great guy. But let me show you, actually. And so what they do is at Modern Meadow, they take a couple cells from any animal, and they slightly genetically engineer the cell structure so that there's no fur or hair that grows on the leather, and they grow it in a petri dish. And so technically speaking, if they had embedded within SAP, like you saw in Jurassic Park, Tyrannosaurus Rex DNA, they could actually grow that as well, which would be pretty badass wallet to have. So Modern Meadow, I've been their website in a while. Yeah, create, don't destroy. That's nice new branding they have. Yeah, yeah, and so that, yeah, here's the leather they grow, right? And the issue with leather is a lot of times when you dehide a cow, which is just wrong. You have to use these really awful chemicals for the environment to burn off all the hair. It takes a matter of weeks, and yeah, it's just wrong. So they actually grow this stuff, and that's actually leather they grew in a petri dish. Yeah, but they also they grow meat as well. When I invested years ago and I sold my position, I'm no longer an investor. It's a great company though. It was just for the leather part, and they started getting into meat as well. Looks like they're just talking about leather at this point. So anyway, check it out. It's a great company. But that's one of the companies I think will be incredibly innovative longer term when it comes to making the world a better place through fabricated leather. You know, pleather is what I use. Yeah, that's plastic leather. All right. And next up is Manas, who's speaking French, is saying, Je pense donc je suis. I think, therefore I am. Comment allez-vous? I'm doing great. Très bien, merci. Et vous? Je veux faire le grasse matinée ce matin. Yeah. Yeah. And the grasse matinée means sleep in. And somebody here is asking, seems like something happened before office hours. I hope everything is okay. Yeah. No, it was, I wanted to sleep in, but I didn't. It wasn't me. Thank you, Manas, for that. Je pense donc je suis. I think, therefore I am. Like the Rodin sculpture. Yeah. Chacun son goût. To each their own. I love it. Thank you. So, yeah, nothing. What happened? Like I started 2 minutes late today, or 3 minutes late, and the reason was because whoops, and that's a warning that the call's done. But we'll go another 5 minutes because I started a couple minutes late. Yeah, just to be fair. I started a couple minutes late because I restarted my computer, and I've been having issues with my computer. I got a great computer; it's a Mac, but what I found that is I've got this backup drive, and for those of you that are nerds like me, I'll show you one way to, like, you can always go into your startup menu, just like on Windows, the startup folder, whatever, and stop things from starting up. But when you're using a Mac, what you have to do is this. You have to go to the library directory, okay? And then you go here to extensions right here. And basically, here's all the extensions that were starting before. And so I just took them out of that folder, put them in an untitled folder here. And I removed the one that was messing things up was this one here. That's just for hard drives. And also I gutted Symantec because Symantec's Norton product just destroys your computer. It's disaster. So that's why I started a couple minutes later or so, but I got everything up and running, which is good. And nobody's complaining about the sound. So you're going to hear an echo now. I'm just going to do a sound test now. Okay, so give me 1 second, please. Hold on. Hello? Hold on 1 second. You'll hear an echo. Test. Hello? Great. Okay. It was one of the issues I was having was a little bit of static, which we thought was a Wirecast issue, but anyway, I solved it. But we're here. Thank you. All right. And thank you, Ramon, for asking. Ramon is asking also, my question for this week is, what are your thoughts on disturbing a market that's very powerful, like the oil industry? I think it's a great thing. I think it'd be a great thing for this blessed planet we live on. Just kind of like what everything Elon Musk does. When it comes to the solar industry or Teslas, et cetera. God bless him for trying to make the world a better place. So I think that anytime you can disrupt an industry that's belching filth into the sky, through factories, it's a wonderful thing. I just wish that we could see the same thing happening in China. Like, China's been great with solar companies, but still about a third of all the pollution we have here above California, where I live, a third of it is pollution from mainland China coming over here. And China still has a lot, like thousands of filthy coal mines that are still running. Yeah, and we're all in this together. So I think there's got to be a way to focus more so on solar and less so on other ways of generating energy that destroy this beautiful world we live in. Yeah. And Kundan is saying, what is accommodative lending in finance? I don't know what that means. A great quote is from a Chinese sage saying, we live in interesting times where a lot of new terminologies have been created, like social distancing. That's my Heisman. And maybe accommodative lending is a newer term as well, meaning there's some sort of fiscal stimulus or government help when it comes to lending as well. Yeah. And then Manas is saying, sorry for the inconvenience. No, not at all. Do you invest in debentures? And is it better than preferred shares? Yeah. So I do invest in just some debt instruments, largely AAA rated bonds, fixed income instruments like treasuries. So I do that. Yeah. In terms of preferred shares, so the way it works for those you're not familiar is if a company goes bankrupt, the debt holders have a senior claim. They get their money back first. Then the preferred shareholders, okay, which are shareholders with preferential treatment. Then the lowest of the low is common shareholders. So whenever you and I buy a stock, we're common shareholders. Preferred shareholders are usually the earlier investors. Usually when you buy stocks in the open market, it's just common shares. So I don't really invest much in preferred shares because I don't really do as much in terms of creative financing or alternative financing or venture capital investing anymore. Yeah, I'm focused 1,000,000,000% on you, the student, the customer. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we're going to have to... We're going to have to wrap it up now, guys. I'm so sorry. I know there's a ton more questions. If you're my MBA degree student, what you can do is just copy your questions, please, and then paste them into, or just ask me for MBA degree students office hours that will start in 10 minutes. And then also we'll open up Zoom as well if you guys, MBA students, want to do Zoom calls as well. And then after that, we've got a bunch of one-on-ones for students today. So I want to thank you all for your time today. This has been a fun one. I apologize for starting a couple minutes late. I had technical issues, which I've since fixed. Yay. So my team will actually have this whole call written up by Saturday, this Saturday. And I'll show you what that means. It's just in case you've missed this call. What you can do is go to my YouTube channel. Okay. And almost there. And then what you can do is just click here on the webcast. This is last week's. This is this week's right now. But click on it. And if you go, and I made the quality suck because I don't want bandwidth to be, And what you can do is just go down here and then click on these questions here to get immediate answers to questions. So again, my team publishes that by Saturday. So this Saturday, you can check that out. So if you're my MBA degree students, I'll see you in a couple of minutes on our MBA degree student office hours or during our one-on-ones today. If not, if you subscribe to my vlog, I'll see you tomorrow and every day because I vlog daily. Otherwise, God bless you all. Stay safe, stay healthy, And I'll see you all next Thursday and every Thursday at 8 a.m. Thank you.